You know, Miff, I almost regret saying it, but you've been killing it. Your chair ads are on point.
I'm a creative genius, the likes of which the universe has not seen until this point, Dave.
I feel like I do have to ask, though. There's no way it's just you.
Who else would it be?
I don't know. People have helpers, ghostwriters, even. You got a ghostwriter, Miff?
Are you accusing me of needing help in the creative process?
I sure am.
Well, I don't.
All right, good enough for me.
Whee! You got the next chair ad? Okay, yeah. Aggro, Eiffel State Building Tower. He's picking his nose. Yeah, we're gonna sell so many chairs.
You know what's interesting? We kind of get to peel back the curtain there and see that Mifflin does indeed have a ghostwriter. I wonder if Hindu Man has a ghostwriter for these scripts that he's been writing, because what a weekend that we've had, what an entire week. It's not just the weekend. I keep forgetting that we started this all back on Tuesday, Aggro.
Yep.
But thanks to our good friends over at Maxnomic for being the chair sponsor here in Season 8 of the SPL. Make sure that you grab your Maxnomic chair today. Needforseat.com. Use code SMITEMAX. Get yourself a nice discount. We've got the new XL chairs out and available for all those of you who want a little bit larger of a Maxnomic chair. Thank you so much, Maxnomic, once again for being our chair sponsor and keeping us, our players, and our fans comfortable in the comfort of their own home. Set number 1. Huge set out there. I mean, we get a nearly 54-minute game in game number 3. And now we got to come back to the reality that there's still one more set to go, Aggro. We have the Olympus Bolts and the SCC veterans in Sleekness making their run for Worlds.
I mean, crazy to think about that this is our last set before the World Championships really begins in earnest whenever we're playing on that SWC week. But look, I mean, the Olympus Bolts team, they've been great all year, but the reality is they are one set away from not making it to Worlds, and that an SCC team is one set away from making a huge upset and maybe going to Worlds themselves. So this one's going to be very exciting.
If you've missed anything that's happened this week, we'll give you a look at the schedule and the brackets so you can kind of get a visual representation of what all has been happening over the course of 6 days of this SWC placement round. It all started for Sleekness back on Tuesday when they got their 3-0 over Elysium. The Dragons put them down with a 3-0 victory. They got a win over the Valhalla Valkyries yesterday in a 5-game slapper of a set that ended with a backdoor call. The Olympus Bolts, they got their victory over the Valkyries earlier on in the week, lost to J Dragons in a 3-2, and now we see both of these teams moving on. Something about 5 games right there in that last little bit, man. 5 games for the Dragons and Bolts, 5 games for Sleekness and the Valkyries. And now it all comes down to this.
And even though both these teams have played the Valhalla Valkyries, and obviously Sleekness is 3-2, doesn't look nearly as impressive as the Olympus Bolts 3-0, remember that in the first 2 games of that set between the Sleekness and the Valhalla Valkyries, Sleekness dominated to the, maybe not to exactly the same level that the Bolts dominated, but fairly close. Those were 2 no-doubt games from beginning to end. So we know that Sleekness has that potential to play at a high level. I think that they started to make some mistakes towards the back end of that set that really started to cost them. I think some of their lack of a competitive experience shown through a little bit. But if they've fixed up some of those problems, they've got good picks and bans coming in, and the Bolts aren't able to replicate what gave them trouble up against the Valkyries, who knows what will happen.
And the Bolts having to go up against Sleekness, a team that has kind of been coined as like a mini Dragons team out here as far as the SCC players are concerned, kind of comparing them to a team, because Sleekness loves to play a lot of the same ways that the Dragons do. They like to get aggressive early. They have a lot of similar picks, namely especially in that Zeus in the mid lane. And the Bolts have got to try and get a way to come around that. Venenu here in the mid lane has been playing a variety of picks this weekend, a variety of picks really throughout this season.
Yeah, Ven played so well in their set up against the Valkyries in particular. I thought that he just absolutely dominated in this mid lane. I mean, they were really able to do whatever they wanted across the map, but Ven was a huge part of it. His flexibility in picks and bans, I think, is a really big asset right now. We saw him take some different things up against the Jade Dragons and weren't exactly sure what they wanted to be doing in that set for him. And I think that having another couple days to watch what other teams are doing and let him lock in his God pool is going to be very beneficial to the squad.
Bit of time to kind of recuperate here, kind of get themselves realigned and ready with the team here. It's always hard coming off of a set loss, especially one to a team with the Dragons, similar caliber to them. But now they've got to get it lined up. They got to get ready here because this is going to be a big matchup for these guys. I'm very curious how the mid lane meta between these two teams is going to kind of develop here, because Neu, like I said, playing a lot of similar things to the Dragons. The Zeus has been namely kind of one of his big powerhouse picks, and well, Venenu knows what that Zeus play is like. I mean, he got to experience it firsthand in the Phase 3 playoffs. Surely no stranger to trying to draft around this team.
Exactly. I mean, the Zeus pick has been popular for a couple of teams. Feel like the Bolts are the type of team that should be able to adjust to that by now. They played against it at Phase 3 playoffs. They played it against it earlier this week up against the Jade Dragons, and I'm expecting they've got a pretty good game plan there.
Well, we do have the mid laner for the Bolts, Venenu, sitting by for our pregame interview. We'll get to talk to him a little bit. Venenu, thanks so much for standing by here for our pregame interview. And I just got to say, man, I mean, you're one set away from going to Worlds. I mean, what's the atmosphere around the team like here?
I mean, we're feeling good. We're excited to play. Really good set from before. We got to watch that. So we got some more games in, and yeah, I think we have a good game plan going into it. So pretty excited to get going.
And going up against this SCC squad, I mean, you guys got to kind of see how they played against the team that took you down. You got to see how they played against the team that you guys took down. What's kind of some of the thought process on, and maybe some of the drafting, you know, some of the things you guys have been working on towards this team?
We got to see how they played yesterday, which I think was pretty good. Got all 5 games going in, so we got to see what their mistakes are and where they're weak, where they're strong, and yeah, we're definitely going in very confident.
I mean, you guys are 3 wins away, 1 set away from going to Worlds. I mean, the team seems confident throughout here. It seems like you guys are ready to go. I rarely ever ask this kind of a question, Ven, but what do you think the final score is going to be here today, man?
3-0 or 3-1 if we're trolling.
The classic call for it. Well, thank you so much, Venenu, for sticking by for the interview. Good luck in your set.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Thank you. Just confidence you have throughout here. I mean, it's the classic, what was it, PBM who kind of started that trend, the 3-0 or 3-1 if we're trolling out here. But confidence across the board for the Bolts. I think they have all rights to do so. They are an SPL caliber team. Or not even caliber. They are an SPL team. They've been around for a long time. A lot of veterans on the squad.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of veterans. Hadex trying to go and play at Worlds again because he did play with that old Sanguine roster whenever they made it out of the SCC. So he knows what, you know, he's playing up against on the Sleekness side, but trying to make it for the first time as an SPL player.
And here now, Sleekness is the team that they're having to go up against. Kind of stranger picks across the board here. I think mostly Quig is kind of where everybody's eyebrows are raised here. Kind of looking at him, everybody knows, you know, what does he want to do? Well, he's been loving the East set. He got to bring the emoji out a couple times. But Neu has kind of been a sleeper pick out here amongst this team in the mid lane. It's not for any lack of respect or anything. He's just been a quiet carry on this team.
Yeah, he played very well yesterday. And Nehu, you know, we've been talking so much about Oath and what he's been doing and the duo lane and the weird picks that Quig plays and how well Dudeman Bro's been playing, that I feel like Nehu has kind of flown under the radar for sure, but he played really, really well in that setup against the Valhalla Valkyries. Makes the play to win them the game at the very end of it, and I think that having him develop into a true you know, win condition and carry for this team has been instrumental in them getting to this position, and they're going to need him to do more even than he was doing yesterday if they're going to beat the Olympus Bolts. But certainly seemed up to the task, and I think that Morgan play in particular was really, really clean. He's got a couple of gods that, you know, he seems to really prefer and does pretty well on. So if they can, you know, make sure that they get him picks like that Morgan, like Tiamat, those types of picks, he should be doing fine.
I mean, this is a player who has picked up a variety of gods just over the course of the weekend, a variety of gods through their time throughout the SCC regular season play. I mean, I can't stress enough. This was a 4th seed team before all of the major events started happening, but slowly over the course of their second half of Phase 2, they were taking games off the Herculean Hoops, which is Baskin's team. They were taking games off the Winter Dogs, who were a team up ahead of them. This is a team that if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile.
Yeah, they've done very well and really grouped together. You know, they've got their unique play style. I think Oath is obviously the focal point if I'm the Bolts, just making sure that he is not able to get some of his hard carry gods, you know, the Susano, the Ao Kwang. He's looked very, very good on those. But, you know, the big weakness they had yesterday is that when they weren't the ones starting the fights, when they were playing against compositions that were going to initiate onto them, I thought they really struggled in those moments. The Athena is the obvious one that Raffer was doing very well with. I think if I'm the Olympus Bolts, I'm not picking a slow counterpunch style draft, which they have been known to do at times during this year. and by no means would I give Sleekness the initiative in this set, because they have been very good when they are the ones dictating how the engagements start. The Bolts should be picking fight starters early and often in this draft, and I think that they'll be just fine.
Any world where we even see the Bolts maybe just kind of go towards that Athena, that seemed to be a real hindrance to them in that game 3 and 4, so much they had to ban it. Maybe a potential opportunity to see a cheeky little Athena pick here by the Bolts.
Maybe. If someone's going to do it, I think it might be Lasbra, because when Athena was really good, they were playing a little bit of Athena jungle. Jake is not an Athena player that I can tell. I mean, that just does not feel like his play style to me. So, it's certainly possible. I wouldn't force it just because they struggled against it yesterday. There are gods that do what Athena does, but better, and that's why she hadn't seen a lot of play up until yesterday. They can pick similar styles of gods that achieve the same thing and not have to force that pick.
Picks and bans for game number 1 in the final set of the Smite World Championship placement rounds here between the Bolts and Sleekness. The SPL versus the SCC one final time, and only one team can make it to the World Championships. The first ban coming out is going to be the Izanami, taking an immediate shot there at Dude Man Bro, banning away one of his big comfort picks. But Sleekness aren't going to let anything just roll through here. Yamoja kind of being that first one. And talking to Neu during the post-game interview, one of his things that he was confident in with his team is they feel that they know how to draft up against the Bolts. We'll see if that comes to fruition here.
Yeah, it's not an easy task for sure. It took many teams a long time to figure out. Remember, don't forget that the Bolts had one of the longest win streaks in SPL history during Season 8. So they've seen a lot of success this year. They've clearly been difficult to beat, and I expect that to hold true today.
Bans across the board, across the map. Izanami, Nike, and Iset. Targeted ban over towards the dual lane specifically with a couple of those, once over on the solo. And now Sleekness as well, taking a couple of very targeted bans. The Ola the Emoja, and the Kamazot's all taken out. And I was almost going to say, what a surprise. We see Achilles make its way into the first picks over there for Haddix and Solo.
Yeah, not a surprise whatsoever. This has been a very clean and easy first pick for a lot of teams. But with AMC open, I was going to say, I thought there was maybe some consideration. Wow, they go AMC Zeus right away. Just lock in that duo lane, or that back line. And now if you're Lasbra, exactly what you're going to be diving. And it is a ton of damage. So he's got to pick something with some type of survivability. Love this Odin pick for Haddix. He's looked really, really dominant on this god during this year. And you've got two carries that are awfully immobile. And you want to talk about survivability? Odin is maybe the hardest. He is the hardest warrior to kill in the game by my estimation.
Well, now that we do have that Odin Achilles, is that kind of pushing this Achilles to maybe going into the jungle role then over here for Lasbra, as we do see a Thoth, which had a very wishy-washy kind of performance in that Dragon's Bolt set. It did end up getting one win in the midst of there. And then a Kepri on the other side, so you want to try and answer some of that dive by getting yourself a nice little revive there. But, I mean, we were just talking about, you're talking about Odin going to solo lane, so I got to imagine Achilles then is going into jungle.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it could be Jake on Odin's support, which I wouldn't mind. I think it gives him that type of survivability. You really just need him for the cage. I think that it could work pretty well to have that be Odin's support. I don't think I want Lasbra on Achilles or Odin. Lasbra has been very successful this year on his types of picks, and I think that giving him those initiator styles, which you'd think that the warrior can work in that way, but just haven't loved him off of some of those signature picks. So I like the decision by Sleekness to ban out some of those gods, the Dodgy and the Fenrir, but I'm with them. I think that Lasbra has yet to pick.
There will be 4 assassins banned out here in the second wave of bans. The Fenrir Dodgy that you mentioned, and then the Thor and Susanna. So a couple shots over at Oath and try and put him a little bit further down in the pick column. We did see an Alquan come out of him yesterday, but instead it will be a Kleena, who has 75% win rate over here in Group B. Only had a few games that she's been able to play, a few games that she's been able to make it through. We've seen success in multiple roles with her. Maybe potential for solo lane, but it seems that Sleekness really do like this Kleena over the jungle. And now with the Ymir locked in, imagine that's going over to Jake.
Yeah, that's got to be Jake. So it is either Achilles or Odin jungle. Wonder which one I'd prefer. I guess Odin? I don't know. I'm not loving either one because they're both really good in solo right now. I don't want to take either of them out of Haddix's hands. I wish Haddix, no disrespect or anything like that, but I wish Haddix could just control both because he's so good on both of these gods. that he's been really dominant on them. But it doesn't really matter which one is in each position. Maybe you want the Odin cage more frequently around these fights, so I guess that's the direction I would go. But the Bolts get some good AoE now with that Medusa. The Ymir wall is obviously fantastic up against this backline of Sleekness. And Quig is going to have a lot of pressure on him here to position well, to not get caught in these Ymir walls, even if they might catch his carries, and then to be on point and not get CC'd whenever those resurrection timers are necessary.
And maybe not even just the backline. I mean, so far, there's no god that can really get around this wall. The only option that Kleena would have would be going to another wall to try and walk around at that point. But, I mean, we've seen what happens. You need that half second before you're able to get into the wall, and we've seen what some teams are able to do to try and get her under that 25% health threshold so she can't walk through. And Sleekness going kind of off the walls here with this pick, a Sun Wukong. We don't see it very often. Usually it was just Ducky from the Valkyries kind of playing this, and Benny Q mid, the other person playing it here. But with Zeus and AMC, cannot imagine it's going there. Sun Wukong probably slotted towards solo.
Yeah, the Chronic, I mean, we've seen him play Achilles. I believe we've seen him play Odin, and we've seen him play Nike. And all three of those either taken or banned. So I was very curious on which direction he would go. I thought maybe Osiris would be the direction that he might go in order to get some type of way through those walls, because in Osiris passive he can go through player-made walls, and just locking down that Medusa may have been a little bit easier. Wukong he either is doing enough damage to be playable or he's not, and no one else is really playing him, so that tells me that he's not doing enough damage. But recent changes to the solo lane, making Warrior's Axe a little bit more of an aggressive item, maybe that has unlocked his potential over here in the solo lane. But no matter who he's against in the Achilles or the Odin, I feel like he's going to have his hands full.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing a lot of bruiser style coming out of solo. The Blackthorn Rush has kind of been the staple out there. We've seen things like Shifter Shield even pop its way out there. So Sun Wukong to the solo lane, Kleena in the jungle. And this might be one of the first times I've ever seeing Dude Man Bro go onto this AMC. I can't even recall the last time I've seen him go off something like away from the Izanami, the Olarun, the Hachiman, and like occasionally Cupid. It's really just been those four.
Yeah, it's a good point. I don't think we have seen him play this AMC, and this is a god that is a hyper carry. You need to be doing a lot of work, but also positioning well, target selecting well. Your stinger is the go button. It's a mini nemesis ult basically for other physicals on your team, and so you get to really focus that target, but you've got to trust his calls and be on that same page as him. So, it's a lot of responsibility, I think, on this duo lane. That's been where Sleekness has been very strong, but now they're going up against one of the best duo lanes in the SPL, and Baron and Jake, and one that has historically been very aggressive. And Ymir Medusa is a kill lane. Like, they are going to put pressure on you. They can kill you at level 2 very, very easily. Quig and Dude Man Bro need to be very, very safe in that lane.
I mean, Ymir Medusa kind of gives me remnants of the old, like, Ymir on her lanes where you put up the wall and that's your impale target, but with not many places to run and not many ways to get over the wall here, Sleekness have a tall task to go up against the Olympus Bolts. Who's going to come out on top in game number 1? Will it be the SPL? Will it be the SCC? Let's find out with Goremizer and Mifflin.
That's right, Score. It's Miff. And of course, the game now kicking it off with Sleekness and the Bolts. Now, Sleekness had a very interesting path, fun path yesterday to get here, Mifflin. The Bolts had an unfortunate tumble there against the Dragon, so both of them looking for their last shot at Worlds. And, of course, there's so much that can stand out to me. Nehu looked really good on the Zeus earlier, but it's this Thoth. I'm glad we're on Vin. It's this Thoth that really does catch me off guard, because he's been showing up just a little bit more often in the last couple of days.
Yeah, and not in the early game of the last couple of days,
No.
right? You're not picking Thoth for
Sometimes
that.
not in the late game either.
But, I'd argue in the late game when he is showing up, it looks really, really good. It's so hard to siege against this god. His siege is ridiculous. What better way to start going into a tier 2 tower, going into Phoenix, than shutting somebody down to like 50% HP off like one rotation of abilities? So I'm very excited to watch Ven pilot this god. He's very adept at it. He's seen a lot of success on it in the past. But I think more importantly, and maybe the most flavorful pick in this lobby, has got to be this Odin in the jungle for Lasbra. That is a facilitator-style jungler. You need to get involved early. Ring of Spears has got some great targets. Nehu, Dude Man Bro, both going to struggle, even Oath to a certain extent, as long as Lasbra isn't close to a wall. When he drops that ultimate, is going to be in a lot of trouble as well. So keep your eyes on Laz. A lot of the early game riding on him.
It's been very hit or miss, this Odin jungle, throughout the year. There's been a couple of times where it is absolutely what you want it to be, and, the potential, as you had highlighted, is always behind it. And then sometimes it is nothing in the middle of a game. And when I say that, I mean it as in a way that he is nothing but a hard body that sometimes gets demolished. Lasbro, of course, has played this successful. We'll see what he's going to be able to do. The dual lane, as well, is going to be an interesting point of contention. A Medusa and a Ymir, who has not been showing up for a while here. And now they're going to be able to get aggressive. This is that awkward moment of Ymir. You don't quite have everything, no wall. And the carpet's only going to do so much, so they're not going to be able to find the first blood. But this is a lane that could find some kills.
It really can, man. Land a nice freeze, land some good damage. The changes to Medusa as well make it a lot easier to apply some of that anti-heal. Might be one reason we see Quig stray away from the meditation that he has been very apt to go towards in the past. Instead, it's a Phantom selection this time. Probably pretty concerned for Dude Man Bro's life. I mean, that's the only reason you're picking up Phantom this early on. The threat of Lasbro in the jungle has already affected Quig. Just at minute 0, changed up exactly how he wants to play. A lot less survivability in that duo lane, but it is a lot more survivability as long as Lasbro's there. I wonder if that affects the Odin's pathing and whether or not he's really willing to head over into the long lane, because there are still decent targets elsewhere on the map. If Lasbro just sits in mid, Nehu's not getting that Phantom, not for a couple more levels at least once Quig rotates out.
Ooh, a good blink double freeze. Beads forced from Dude Man Bro. And Quig dashes away. Barra trying to catch up. The shots are going to be good. A great wall from Jake. Probably going to hear that a lot throughout this. And the damage is there, but not enough for first blood. Still, the bolts commanding this duo lane.
Beads lost on Dude Man Bro, so next time that freeze happens, Dude Man Bro likely just falling down. That is tough stuff early on. This AMC should be hitting a point very shortly where he can hover really far back in the lane, just throw out the honey and the bees from
and he'll want
max distance. Yeah, he doesn't want to play against the Ymir and the Medusa, and I can't argue against him.
Oath has made his way over here. Jake, Barra.
Great wall.
Well, I was going to say we're going to be in trouble, but Jake just bodies them away, and now they're blocked off. They're still chasing him down. The Ymir taking a lot of the damage. That seems to be the goal for their kill. First blood on the line. The chase is on. The grab is just too short. Jake tries to make it.
Whoa!
What another wonderful wall. Quig does get first blood, locks him down just in time, but now Lasbro's here.
And he's found Quig in the jungle. That's a 1-for-1 trade. Sleekness finds first blood. Olympus bolts find the secondary, but can they get more? Look at Ven's rotation.
Yeah.
He might catch Oath.
He's trying to. A couple of shots. That's going to be good. There's the root, and now the damage
See ya.
is easy to lock up. He even throws out the ult. I don't know if you needed it, but either way, it's another
Uh-oh.
kill, and they're looking for more. Other side of the map, Haddix has rotated.
Bye.
Execute is good, and it's a 3-for-1 trade. I hope that first blood tasted good, because that's all they got.
Man, Sleekness just gets so over-aggressive on the left side of the map. I don't think there's any reason to be between the Tier 1 and Tier 2 tower of duo lane at the 3.5-minute mark. It is so easy for Ven and Lazar to make that rotation in. You can't really expect Haddix to find that solo kill every time, which is what really tips that fight in favor of the Olympus bolts, but look at the gold. Sleekness get first blood and 1,000 gold deficit.
Oh, this is unfortunate, Dude Man Bro. There's nothing a poor AMC can do to try and get out of here. Luckily, he's got some backup. Quig with a great save. Make sure that Dude Man Bro isn't just feasted upon there. But that is a pretty much easy showcase of what can go wrong for AMC anytime Jake just shows up.
Yeah, so now Scarab's blessings off the table. Dude Man Bro still doesn't have beads for 30 seconds. This is a lot of pressure early on. Jake making the solo play for the red buff, now joined up by Ven. And what's Nehu doing? He knows better. Last time he just stepped up to any camps, he just died.
Now this first blood, it's a heavy commitment. And honestly,
oh, this wall.
If Quig, I was going to say, this wall, if Quig doesn't have a long-range ability, I guess he maybe could have gotten an auto in there or something, but that is so well placed by Jake to stop Oath. It is unfortunate that he still dies.
Yeah, and unfortunate that Quig has to be sacrificed to Barracuda there. Barracuda getting the credit for that kill, and then Ven immediately rotates in. Doesn't have to worry about Nehu whatsoever because Haddix has got vision on him on the opposite side of the map, and Oath wanted to get into that wall. He would have loved to have walked through a wall, but Ven clotheslines him in the jungle. This is a fast game.
I can't get over how absolutely superfluous that ult was for Ven. Like, you have one auto, you could maybe weave two
My man
in
could have
there,
flicked him.
and he would have died. But no, he needed to send it home. He had to hit the tri-beam on his face to make sure he understood. And hey, he gets the kill, so I guess he can't really knock it. His ult's back up. It's not like he needed it since then. And it makes things a little bit more interesting. Also, Haddix rotated over. He got a big kill right after that onto Nehu. Like, that is an important pick to shut down. And of course, they played the Dragons. The Dragons, and specifically Heroin, has made the Zeus look really good. So they've had some first-hand experience dealing with it. Now they're going to have some first-hand experience dealing with it again. They lock him down.
Bye.
Vin just throws it out and finds a great shot through the wall to make sure he gets the kill. If not, Lazara and Jake were there to corral him back into danger.
Yeah, Lazara gets to hold on to his ultimate, so Ring of Spears would have finished that kill off had it not been Ven just landing the ultimate yet again. Could have been the Ymir wall as well, but instead, it just is Ven all on his own. Jake and Lazara hovering close by in the jungle. Purple buff spawn, and the Olympus Bolts, they've been invading purples all year. Why stop now?
And, of course, when you have a wall like this, man, good luck. Are you going to use your Phantom
No
to try
shot.
to walk at her purple buff? No. Well, it's our purple buff, by the way. The Bolts declare it as theirs. And that's something, I want to talk about it because when you see Odin, Phantom Veil goes hand in hand. Plus, there's damage mitigations when it's upgraded. That's pretty good. I see this Ymir. I won't be surprised if we see it get used for a good Ymir wall at some point in this game because, once you get into Fire Giant fights and Gold Furies, that's deadly.
Yeah, Ymir can lock down entire jungle lanes, man. And if he is burning the Phantom himself, Lazara has an even easier time engaging these fights. Have we even seen a Ring of Spears just yet? I don't think so.
He hasn't needed to.
Yeah, he
They're
just hasn't
damaging
needed
him.
to. Lock him down. I'll kill him instead, says Lazara, and that's exactly how it's panned out. Chronic in some trouble. Drop down to execute range. Haddock's not going to be able to chase out the bird. Chronic can just fly on out of there. But Sleekness needs to find something on the map somewhere they can root some aggression.
This is a good wall, Nehu. We tried to get some damage out there. Look, Zeus can only do so
Oh
much. He
my
got a
God.
single charge. And, now he just gets to cry, unfortunately. Sent back to base, easy peasy. Venenu dashes away from some damage. There's a rift torn open. But it is not going to make enough to find any pressure for Sleekness here. 5-1 read the kills. They got that first blood, and since then it has been nothing but the Bolts.
Yeah, the Bolts push the gold, they push the experience, they're pushing into the enemy jungle. Sleekness has not been allowed to stand anywhere on the map safely. I'm not sure what the fight back is for the SEC representatives right now. I think legitimately it's buckle down, hunker down, and just pray that you can make it to the late game.
Try to. I mean, at this point, Chronic's surviving because 72 transformations is giving him more space to make sure that he can get out of there. I mean, this has been absolutely clinical so far, it feels like, from the Bolts. And a lot of it is little moments like this, right? Like, you look at Nehu, and unfortunately the Zeus, he just can't get out of there.
No, and how many times in these fights are people on the Olympus Bolts just walking through Lightning Storm? They're not respecting the Zeus damage because
At all.
Nehu hasn't had a chance to detonate. Even here, man's just dead. Gets caught out by Jake. Jake, essentially, I think, could have just sold him, but Gungnir's might was just enough to lock him down. Jake, credit for the kill this time around as well. What do you do on Sleekness? All you can hope for is a slightly slower pace, and I don't think the Olympus Bolts are going to give you that.
And honestly, I think after that last ult, Lasber just walked through it. Now we'll see what they can do. Quig gets taken down in the jungle. Nehu and Oath, and technically Dude Man Pro are all nearby, but it's not a fight they want to try and take. And honestly, it makes sense. AMC, though, it's about to feel a little bit of the pressure. Yeah, I think that Scorpion's safe. This is
that
no
worth?
man's land, man. Everything is owned by the Bolts right now.
Bye.
And Bear is going to be able to erect a statue onto the Tier 1 tower in left. Plus, they took the Scorpion on top of it just because they could. 7-1 now. The Bolts up. Well, approaching 4,000 gold. 3,300 at the time. Gold Fury is available. There's a lot of ward coverage over there for Sleekness.
I wonder if the Bolts even make a pit stop at the Gold Fury. Why bother? I mean, everywhere you walk, you've got an additional minion essentially with the Sleekness tag. Each one of these guys is falling that quickly.
Yeah.
I push some towers. Go to Fire Giant. All right, just let's see a coin toss.
We actually, it was in season 7. E United was bonkers behind. I think it was the Leviathans at the time. And
wow,
they were just getting erased. And so at 10 minutes, they lined up, they squared up to the Fire Giant, and they killed it. It was the fastest FG we got that year. I think it was one of the fastest that we've got in general.
That was double frenzy meta.
Yeah, because
then.
It was 10 minutes, 26 seconds. It took them 26 seconds to burn it down. And it's not a far-fetched strategy. Probably is here for Sleekness, especially now that the time has gone by. You get another wide ult there from Nehu that doesn't get anything done for them. And the Bolts get a Pyromancer. So I'm sure they're feeling really good.
Yeah, Nehu doesn't even clip Lazara with it. Lazara was in the middle of an abduct, doesn't get a single charge applied to him, and walks out of there. Odin already incredibly hard to kill. Probably even harder to kill when your mid laner is 3 levels down, 11 minutes in, on a hyper carry like Zeus. He's just going to continue to be accosted. Everyone's a great target.
Well, Jake pulled back.
That wall's nuts.
Just absolutely laughs off the damage that's getting thrown his way. But now there's 4 people around him, and it's going to be a little bit more of a troublesome prospect. Quig throws the Scarab's Blessing onto himself. No deaths yet for the Bolts nor Sleekness, but that's going to be the blink engage. Jake looking for Dude Man Bro. Lasber is the one who gets the stun. Jake is the one who gets the kill, and they take care of the carry for the second time.
Well, there are a couple of things that could have made that fight go a little bit better for Sleekness. Had Jake not found a phenomenal ultimate, or a wall rather, to separate Nehu from his own shield, Chain Lightning would have torn through the Olympus Bolts. Had Nehu not whiffed Lightning Storm onto Lasbra just a couple of seconds beforehand, likely there could have been some follow-up or potentially a kill onto Jake, but no, that wasn't what happened. Instead, it's a free pick onto Dude Man Bro, fall back into a Gold Fury, and an immediate grouping on the left-hand side. The Olympus Bolts cannot be stopped.
So, Miff, how does this sound for you? You're up 8 kills in a row at this point. 7,000 gold.
Yeah.
12 minutes in, by the way. Yeah, definitely feeling the advantage for the Bolts. And Haddix is taking what could very easily turn into a 1v4. And honestly, I still think the 4 might need to be a little worried about this one. Doesn't have a massive level advantage,
well,
though.
They should
Gets
have
pulled, abducted, and now he's forced to retreat. Tier 1 tower still standing. But with a Quig nearby, yeah, this should be a kill. No one blocks the dash. He's able to disengage a little bit. But the damage is still there. Can't 4v1. And finally, they get a second kill for Sleekness.
Yeah, that was needed, but even then, it's a stopgap measure, a Band-Aid on what is essentially a bullet wound.
Yeah.
I mean, the Olympus Bolts, do you see a downtick in the gold? Do you see a downtick in the experience? Pull up the charts. They went up.
They just took a tier 1. They absolutely are pulling it back in their favor.
Tier 2 too?
This is too much pressure? Yeah, for 13 minutes? Yeah, so they're not going to be able to do that with just 1 minion wave. They got a decent amount of damage out there. They also, I don't think, have backed in a little while, so they probably have a little bit of gold in their pockets. And that's where, item discussion could come into this, mainly because you're about to see Wind Demon come online for Barracuda. That is, with the way things are going, going to be a nice power spike to make sure these fights continue going the way of the Bolts.
Silver linings where they lie for Sleekness. Not too much of an experience gap in the duo lane. Only 1 level for Jake and even between Dude Man Bro and Barracuda. Still a 2-level lead for Venenu in mid. Lasbra, 1 level in the jungle and 1 level for Haddix in the solo lane. So Sleekness, as far as experience is concerned, not too far behind, but taking a peek at the builds, almost an entire item on each individual member of the Olympus Bolts over their opposition.
Lasbra blinks over the wall. Dude Man Bro doesn't have a lot of places to go. Quig is here, though, and
Bye-bye.
Quig does have the Phantom, and instead is going to go for the Scarab's Blessing. They're going to wait it out. Barra has no mana to work with anyway. He's going only for the autos. A nice stinger almost turns it around. Oath gets aggressive, and the Veil is torn, but he's not able to find the kill just yet. Nehu, finally, credit for that one. That's a big shutdown onto Barracuda, but now it's Venenu. The rotation, the damage is there, and it's been a jungler, a carry, and potentially a little bit more here as Quig gets caught out. No mana to work with. Slowed down by Jake, and then a dash forward from Vin is going to be able to get things done. Nehu versus 2, and it looks like he doesn't want to try and take this fight.
Nehu very nearly shuts down Van, but a well-timed Aegis does maintain his life. Chronic had wanted to rotate into that team fight initially, but he met up with Haddix in the jungle, and Haddix says, no, sir. You're going to let the Olympus Bolts do whatever they want because that's what we do, and it's exactly what happens. Sleekness are trying their best to fight back in. They're finding small wins, or small picks, I should say, not necessarily a single win on an engagement just yet. But again, the experience gap is not massive. We're more so concerned with the gold and the pace of farm from Sleekness. Transcendence has been finished for Oath for like 2, maybe 3 entire minutes. We've got like 13 stacks.
That's not a lot.
No, it's going to be a little while.
That's almost just 2 hands. Like, if we both held up our hands, we have more fingers than he has stacks.
That's a crazy stat.
Yeah, that's a really weird one to say. The other thing that really caught my eye, and I'm sure the desk mentioned this, but I feel like it's worth saying, is unless Oath is able to run into a wall, not a single person on this team can jump over a wall placed up by Jake. Like, they have no escape save for the Phantom and running into a wall themselves if you're Oath. So realistically, this is feast or famine. We were talking about the Athena yesterday. I love the Ymir pick here.
Yeah, the Ymir has been one of Jake's go-tos. I mean, it's just a masterful pick. You changed the pace of the game. It's been working out for Jake for years now at the SEC and SPL level, so I'll never argue against it. There could be just montages of me personally screaming "Great Wall" with
Yeah.
Jake on the screen.
Honestly, we could probably get that just from this year.
All right, Clippers in the chat, get ready. From here on out for this game, this set, every time you hear us say "Great Wall," make sure you get that one clipped and send it in.
Send it in. That'll be a special segment on this month in Smite is Myth saying Great Wall.
Crossover episode.
Well, hey, another Tier 1 tower knocked down here by the Bolts. And they're going to extend this gold lead. What is that, 6,000 gold? Which, admittedly, is where it's been hovering around for a hefty majority of this one. Kills are still 11-3. Fights have been going their way. Even when it feels like you get a little bit of a bite back here from Sleekness, the Bolts find something still going in their favor. And usually it's, cool, you step forward to take a tower. We're just going to kill you now.
Yeah, the couple of fights that Sleekness take are immediately answered by return kills of the Olympus Bolts, or the Olympus Bolts taking a permanent objective, or a neutral objective. We haven't had very many opportunities to talk about the potential of neutral objectives because they're dead, like the whole game. Pyromancer died like immediately. Then they went over the Gold Fury. I didn't even get an opportunity to talk about the burn that clean
I
up
kind of
forged your
forgot
team.
the Gold Fury happened. But
Yeah, look,
it died so fast.
Sleekness has got just about no recourse here, barring, again, and I've been saying it for 13 minutes, buckling down, waiting out, and hoping that Nehu hits 6 items. Base defense is all right with the composition, but base defense is not all right with the state of your coffers. I'm talking about their gold. They have none. Sleekness is
money.
broke.
Yeah, they're not feeling anything in that regard. They need a little bit of help there. We were talking about it. I mean, look, if we're looking at defenses, that's something that Sleekness are going to have to hold on their own. Prior to that, there's at least Fire Giants to discuss and potentially talk about. Can they mount a defense near one, or should they just be like, all right, maybe we let the first one go, we'll defend some Tier 2s, maybe a Phoenix, then we'll come back into it.
We got to talk about the relative value of each of their lives, or human life, if you will. And I would say...
Wait, yeah, human life or in-game life?
Yeah, in-game.
Like,
in-game.
In-game life, it's not worth a lot.
We won't wax poetic about actual philosophy just yet.
Okay.
But
Just yet.
each individual
That's
member
game
of
3
Sleekness is worth so little right now. They're not giving over much gold when they die. They're not worth very much experience unless you're Chronic, because he hasn't died just yet. So I think, although Sleekness don't really have a leg in the race of a fight around these neutral objectives, it is worth it for them to show up, because even if they die, they're going to respawn pretty quickly because they're down in levels, and they're not giving up much more than what was already given. So if they do send individual members to the Oni or to the Fire Giant, I wouldn't argue against it.
We'll see what they decide to do. Oath is watching an Oni Fury get taken down. Throws out some damage.
Tried.
But he's not going to be able to get anything done. Just a little late on that one. Lasberg caught out. There's going to be some damage. Good onto him. He brings the Stinger with him as well. And Jake peels 3 to make sure that the jungler can stay alive. That's 2 huge ults down for Sleekness.
Yeah, these Lightning Storms just have not been hitting the mark so far this game. He's applying maybe 1 charge per ultimate. He hasn't really applied too much damage with it. You need to hold on to that. It's your best self-peel tool. It's your best damage tool on your team. It's your only team fight priority, I'd say, on Sleekness. So Nehu cannot afford to just be throwing out this cooldown, because as long as Lightning Storm is down, Sleekness legitimately have 0 odds in a fight.
How many minutes has it been since we mentioned the 13 stacks? Because it's 32 now.
It must have been at least 5.
And it definitely feels like that should be a finished item at this point. Maybe taking a little while there for Oath. He's getting closer, though. Only 13, 12 now. More stacks necessary to evolve that Transcendence. But will the Bolts let that matter here? If they get a good stun onto Chronic in the bird form, Haddix is taking the fight. But there's 4 members of Sleekness all around this tower, waiting for what could potentially break down. A good wall. Keeps Quig in the engagement. But I don't know that the Bolts are looking for the fight. They want the tower.
Yeah, well, the same can be said of Sleekness on the opposite side. Dude Man Bro not here for the defense, but is at least split pushing in the dual lane. Could expose one of the birds of the Olympus Bolts, assuming that Lasbro doesn't get there in time, and it seems like Lasbro will. Dude Man Bro, you might want to run away. If you take a 1v1 up against Lasbro, I'm not sure you win that.
That's something you'll need to be worried about, because it is dangerous. Same thing should be said here for Chronic and Nehu. Damage good.
Can't be doing that.
From Vin. And once again, a Lightning Storm separates the Bolts, and it stops them from progressing. But it is a zoning ult through and through. It only does that and we'll see what happens. You were mentioning this 1v1. We'll see how it can actually shake down, because Dude Man Bro's locked in the tower. He is tanking it as well. That Stinger is not going to get picked up, and it's not going to help enough. Lasber defends the tier 2, gets a kill, but Oath is rotating in. Worst case scenario, Oath might be able to get that tier 2, and they might need something exactly like that going their way, because the Bolts, well, they've taken the Fire Giant.
Yeah, nobody from Sleekness anywhere near this one. And again, Nehu drops his ultimate just for zoning. Can't be doing that. If it were any other of his teammates being accosted there, if it's not Chronic, sure, Lightning Storm might have saved someone's life. But that's a Sun Wukong. He can turn into a bird or an ox or fly to the sky, heal, become invisible, and jump away. He does not need your help escaping that situation.
Yeah, that's actually a big thing. I think I've seen more bird form this game than most other Wukongs this year. It's been oxes through and through, dude. It's only the knockups that people want. We haven't seen that a lot from Chronic. Granted, we haven't gotten to see a lot of opportunities. Biggest play, though, and I have to give them shout-outs where it is, because they're down by 9,000 gold. They are down by 9 kills. That's 12-3 in favor of the Bolts. And the Bolts have 5 players with Fire Giant. But if you're looking for some wins here,
okay,
I see Sleekness has now exposed to Phoenix. And no matter what, one good defense into a really sick team fight, that's a way into the Titan room.
Yeah, now you've exposed at least a win condition for yourselves, but the Olympus Bolts will not allow it to be so if they continue pushing down the left-hand side of the map, and I think that's exactly where they're headed. Look, tier 2 and mid, you can defend that probably because it just is Haddix right now, but Dude Man Bro probably won't be alive for it. He's just falling down up against Lasbra. Best of luck, you lost the 1v1. How do you like the 1v2? You don't. You just don't. Ven, credit for the kill.
Yeah, I was trying to, I wanted to sugarcoat it. But he's 0-5-1. I don't take any fights over there. In fact, I don't know if I take any fights unless I have 4 bodies in front of me right now. This Ymir absolutely helping lock people down. 5-0-1 for Venenu. Lasbra at 2-0-9.
Double beads.
That's going to be a really good freeze into, like you said, double beads on the other side. Nehu throws out a Lightning Storm. Doesn't get a lot of damage done for it. Phoenix at half health. Lasbra walks forward one more time. Stuns wide. But it's still going to open up the bolts. They're the ones whipping a lot of the ults this time around. Vin a little loose with the cannon, but it doesn't necessarily matter. It gets them out of there, and they get a second Phoenix.
Yeah, and the Olympus Bolts just took a Phoenix with only using Ven's ultimate, and Ven only used it for fun, I can say, because Haddix, Lasbra, Jake, Barracuda, all hold on to their ultimate abilities. Right side, Phoenix already off the map. Left side as well has been removed. Only a tier 2 tower, if you want to call it that. I'd say a shred of one stays standing, and, well, by the time I finish the sentence, it'll no longer be true. Sleekness, you got to dig in your heels somewhere. You have to put up a defense somewhere, and it's on the mid-Phoenix without Nehu's ultimate.
We'll see if they're going to be able to do so here. Chronic is the one who's going to be able to find the first stun and push things back. Some damage from the wall is going to be good from Oath, but they're not able to lock down Haddix long enough to get the kill. The bolts will be repelled from this, and it is simply due to not only proximity, maybe a little bit of danger, but also timer on that Fire Giant. It's going to be winding down pretty soon, so they probably don't need to stick around too much. They can get a Primal Fury. They can spend a lot of that gold they just earned. Of course, they've got 2 Fire Minion waves pouring into the base to make them feel better.
Yeah, watch the builds once these guys head back to base, because I think they should each be able to finish off an entire item. I'm talking about the Olympus Bolts, if that weren't clear. Sleekness, of course, just do not have that kind of gold to be buying just about anything. Maybe a ward for a couple of these guys. The Olympus Bolts have got free reign of the map. I would argue now's the time to shift our conversation, Gore. Maybe we just talk about P's and B's for the next one.
Cool. So here's my take on it.
Okay.
Tell me if this is a hot take or not. Don't pick a bunch of stuff that's going to be bad into Ymir.
Yeah. Okay.
That'd be helpful.
What about Odin, too?
And Odin?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because, yeah.
Or maybe ban one of those? Do you really want to ban Ymir? Odin, yeah. Yeah, you do want to ban
See,
Odin.
the problem is, so this is actually, earlier this year we got to talk about it a lot, like the support conundrum. When Yamoja's really good, when you've got Ymir who can be really good. Who else is like at the top right now? Because I'm blanking on Guardians.
Khepri
can be good. Like when there's so many that are like available and awesome. It makes sense to ban out Yamoja because of the healing she can bring. But it just hurts
Chronic's
to
dead.
throw it anywhere. Hey, Chronic did die. Nehu threw down the Lightning Storm, is trying to get some damage. That detonate, that detonate did not look like it did anything to Haddix. And that feels worse than anything. This Phoenix is respawned, though, and that's a good news for Sleekness. Granted, they don't have Chronic for another 40 seconds. Nehu is TKO'd for this fight, and the damage just won't be there. Phoenix goes down. The Bolts get to surge forward, actually. They catch out Nehu. They're going to kill him off. And this might just be the end of the game. 25 minutes in, 15-3. And they're going to chase it down. They're going to look for a little bit more. That was a huge shot from Finn in terms of damage and chase potential. But it is just the Titan and maybe a little bit of playing with their food. The Bolts, they're going to go ahead and take game 1.
Congratulations, Olympus Bolts, on a convincing first game of this 5-game set. Sleekness, it's on you guys for the adaptations now. Game 1's about to download. You downloaded a virus. That's a Trojan horse. Unlucky, dude.
Get out.
Go run your anti-malware and figure out how you can address that in Game 2, because not much of Game 1 was salvageable.
Yeah, I'm outside of like draft things, there really is not a like from the get-go. That one felt like it got out of hand. We'll have to figure out, I guess, what Sleekness is going to do here to bounce back. I will throw this out just because I remember it, but in all the games versus the Valkyries earlier this week, the Bolts took longer to get rid of Sleekness, so they're putting up something of a fight there. We'll see if they can put up even more in Game 2, or if the Bolts are going to go up 2-0 right after this.
Hey there, Smite fans, Aggro here. Look, every single year, the SPL just keeps getting better. Season 7 was incredible, and in Season 8, I'm sure our players are going to take their game to the next level. But in order to do that, they're going to need the best gear they can get their hands on. And that's why I'm so excited to announce the title sponsor for Season 8 of the SPL is Alienware. Yeah, that Alienware. Our players are getting the best of the best in computer gaming. These Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition PC setups are insane. Not only will these be the PCs that the players will compete on once we are in studio, but Alienware is also providing one for each player at their home setup to make sure their practice is as good as possible. Now let's get down to brass tacks. The specs on these Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition desktops are amazing. An AMD Ryzen 9 16-core processor.
That's a lot of cores.
That's plenty of processing power.
Plenty of cores.
If you want to stream, this is the way to go.
I know a lot about my cores, so. I mean, Pilates, right?
64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM.
What? Is that true?
That is true.
I mean, this thing has 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM.
Which you can do literally anything with.
Literally anything.
I've never had more than 16 gigs.
That's quadruple the amount I have at home.
And one of the hottest commodities in the PC world, an NVIDIA GeForce 3090 graphics card.
Insane how much better this is than what I have.
The best graphics you really need, Ultra, of course.
Content's gonna look good.
And what's the point of all the power if you can't see it? Players will also be using the Alienware 25-inch 240 Hz monitors.
Man, when I load into scrims with this bad boy, I'm gonna feed so hard. And it's gonna be in perfect picture quality.
We are so excited to be partnering with Alienware for Season 8 of the Smite Pro League. And the best part is, this VIP treatment, it's not just for the pros. You too can get the best possible Smite experience. Just go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW to get special discounts on some of Alienware's best products. Thanks again to Alienware. Make sure you're following them on Twitter and Instagram. That's @Alienware on both platforms. And you can join their community at alienwarearena.com.
And you're telling me an alien wore this?
Welcome back to the Smite Pro League World Championship placements. Game number 1 is done. The Bolts only need 2 more in order to qualify to the Smite World Championships. And all of the SPL for this season, all of this event can be thanks to our good friends over at Alienware for supporting and being the title sponsor here in Season 8 of the SPL. Make sure to go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW to see all the cool things that Alienware has to offer, not just to our pros, but to all of you fans over at home. Make sure to follow them on their social media at Alienware on both Twitter and Instagram. Go to alienwarearena.com to see everything that Alienware has to offer to all of its fans across the globe. Game number 1, I think the best way to say is it kind of just happened to Sleekness. This seemingly, I want to say just this Ymir, but this Ymir Odin proved to make it to where Sleekness couldn't even run across the map at this point.
I mean, Sleekness got the hands in that game. Like, they got first blood, and you're like, okay, Sleekness,
Nice.
do it off to a good start. And then, like, 10 seconds later, because they got 3 for 1 in that fight, you're like, I understand what this game is going to be like. The Bolts, look, I think this is just a tough matchup for Sleekness. We've talked about their early game being a strength. We've talked about their dual lane being a strength. The Bolts are just really good at early game and in dual lane and at being in these fights. You know, Lasber is one of those junglers who's going to get involved early and often, and he certainly did in this game.
And I think it's one thing, you know, Mifflin stressed it a lot during the game, and I think we can kind of stress it here a lot on the desk, is a lot of these Zeus ultimates, these lightning storms throughout the game, were hitting one person just
Right.
about every single time. I mean, Neu was throwing this ultimate out before fights really even started breaking out. I mean, you see here, he hits 2, but he's already dead at that point.
Yeah, I mean, this was just, this is like the least fun way to play Zeus, for sure, where you're just getting gunned down all the time. You know your team doesn't have the damage to help you or to kill people off of your damage. You don't have the damage to kill anyone. Just not a good game here from Sleekness, and just a great game from the Bolts. They controlled it from the onset, just always knew where they could be fighting, constantly fought really well around this Ymir. Jake had a great game as per usual and made it pretty much impossible for Sleekness to move around the map anywhere they pleased. I mean, 3-0-10 for is crazy. You know what's nuts is that Haddix killed Nehu really early in the game. like really early.
Like level 5.
Level 5. Didn't get another assist. That was it.
That was the one.
1-1-0.
That's all he needed.
Didn't need it.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, he was going up against Chronic in the solo lane, and Chronic didn't get to have a whole lot of fun in that game either. I mean, Chronic threw a lot of damage, a lot of pressure his way. Well, maybe not a whole lot of damage overall, but he kept Haddix at least busy in the solo lane for the early part of the game. And Haddix just kind of went on coast mode. He just kind of walked around the map, existed, threw some damage, said, all right, team, don't worry, you guys got this.
And they did. I mean, look, he had the highest gold per minute, so he was really making the most of his time wandering around the map. And if you're Sleekness after that game, you just have to go back to the drawing board. Like, you just have to pretend that it never happened because you're not gleaning anything super useful. The one thing I will say is that I would make sure that I'm picking something aggressive in the duo lane in particular. You know, Quig on this Khepri, I think I'd much rather see him on something like Serket and just give them the option to do the engaging. You know, I talked a lot about that beforehand. Who is starting fights on this Sleekness draft? It's not Khepri. It's not really Kleedna. Who is it then? It's Wukong? Like, you got one guy and his CC, his initiation isn't very good. I just don't think that this draft plays to Sleekness' strengths, which is starting fights and winning fights decisively. Give them tools to do that. So Serket would be like my number one thing. I would top to it here if I had to for Quig.
Serket, Yamoja, Iset. Those have kind of been the 3 gods that have been winning for Quig here this weekend. It's 3 gods that have been winning for him all throughout his time in the SCC here. And I think you're right to point out that they definitely do need something here. The Wukong was never able to use his CC. Every time we looked at Wukong using that 72 transformations, it was the bird of nope. As in, nope, I do not want to be here. I do not want to be a part of these fights. And he was making his way out of there, though. Picks and Bans game number 2 right here and right now. And I think a huge shift up in their picks and bans here is going to be necessary for Sleekness.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of game that you just have to pretend like, you know, I'm lucky, and then just move on. You know, don't need to talk about it or anything like that. Let's just change what didn't go well for us in the picks and bans. Going first pick this time around, banning Odin. 2 pretty good starts, I'd say, for Sleekness.
Yeah, Odin's going to be a huge one out of Sleekness takeaway, and they will do so, along with Izanami out of the Bolts. So the Bolts are putting a lot of their focus in that duo lane. They had the Izanami to keep it away from Dudeman Bro. They had the E-Set to ban that one away from the support there out of Quig. And then they were also putting some focus in that solo lane, making sure to ban away this Nike from Chronic, not letting him have that. But what we've been seeing so commonly out of a lot of these teams over in this bracket specifically has kind of just been a focus towards Achilles, and the Bolts aren't willing to give that one up. They'll ban it away. Sleekness take Emoji and Kamazotz, and they want to get Dudeman Bro something he's comfortable on with the Zola run.
Yeah, I don't mind this pick for Sleekness. I mean, it's something that Dudeman Bro has played. You know, it's not bad in lane. You just can go mannequins and be able to trade pretty effectively. And if it is an aggressive lane against you, then you can just go Gilded and farm. Either one is okay. Like I said, I still think getting Quig an aggressive god is going to be important, but you don't have to worry about it too much. I expect the Bolts here will likely go with something, you know, I think AMC for Ven, take that away from Nehu, make sure that he's not getting that guaranteed good hunter in mid, you know, force him to play one a little bit lower down on the tier list, and then just see what else you want to do, because you can pick E-Set for Jake.
Okay.
E-Set for Jake. Interesting. So making sure that they don't get that. E-Set Zeus. Okay.
Okay. Now, I was about to say for a moment, but what if this was actually going to be for Veneno? I mean, we did see E-Set take a mid-run with the Winter Dogs. That was Benny Q who picked that god up, but no. That will be halted in its tracks immediately. E-Set Zeus, the two picks out of the Bolts, and that's going to make sure that that E-Set goes over towards the support role. There's no Sino here, so I'm not even going to try and say this is E-Set going over towards the jungle. No shot that Lazarus plays this god. Instead, Sleekness will answer back to grab their other carry in the mid lane, Chiron, and then Fafnir for their support.
And then Hercules there on the other side for Haddix, which has been an unbelievable pick for him. So, you know, I like the Fafnir isn't the fight starter I was really looking for, but it's not bad. You know, it's better than the Khepri in that role. Still would have preferred Serket, I think, but, you know, the obvious synergy there between the Olaron and the Chiron, and then having Coerce, sometimes a little bit too much to pass up. So, and Quig has been very good on this god during their playoff run. So, no, not offensive to me on this selection, but I think it's pretty critical that they get Chronic on something that can start a fight for them, and that does not include Sun Wukong.
And this Hercules won 2 out of their 3 games up against the Jade Dragons for the Olympus Bolts. It was a 3-1-1 and a 2-0-5 performance out of Haddix on this god the last couple times he got to play it. The bans are focused back here in the jungle. We got Susano and Thor to try and make sure to keep Oath down and push him as far down the god pool as they can, and Erlong Shen, which has kind of been sneaking his way into like the latter halves of the bans and picks, where earlier on in the week, Erlong Shen was kind of a top 3 ban.
Yeah, he was getting banned pretty prioritized, but, you know, in this type of game, I think that moving him down to this spot makes some sense to me. I like the Fenrir ban, again, just trying to take some aggressive tools out of Lasbra's hands, but Lasbra can still find a lot. I mean, Serket is still open, and he's played that a lot this year. You know, there's certainly picks there for Lasbra that he can go to that can be a little bit more aggressive in the early game and try and keep the pace high.
And that Serket, if it does get picked up here for Lasbra, that could also act as kind of a 6th ban to make sure that Quig doesn't get his hands on it if Quig decided to go that. Oh, never mind, Quig's, we already got the Fafnir. That's completely out the window. I don't even know where I'm going with that one. But Oath still needs his god. You do still need your god over here in solo lane. That's where a lot of kind of priority was in game number 1 of banning out, was to make sure that Chronic had to go something a little bit further down in that god pool. But Barracuda is going to grab this Medusa. Had a strong performance in game number 1 with some of the buffs that she received in this 8.12 patch. Seems to have brought a little bit of favor to the light of some of these Hunter players.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a Medusa player for a lot of his career, so it doesn't surprise me that that's the direction that he wants to go whenever this god is buffed and good, and it gives him kill potential in this lane, you know, some good CC immunity. I think that this Medusa pick is just fine, and again, it gives you kill opportunity alongside this E-set, which should be able to help dominate the lane.
Well, it will be a Serket hover, but this time for the jungler out of Sleekness with that Fafnir already locked in. Medusa there means they are saving that final pick towards the jungle of their own, so Lasber going to kind of get to look at the entire draft before he decides what he wants to play. So will be Serket locked in for Sleekness, and that leaves one more option over towards the solo. Last time it was Sun Wukong, and this time it's Sobek over there for the solo laner.
Two gods that start fights for Sleekness, and so I'm happy. You know, their team fight may be lacking a little bit in AoE, but they've got great CC, they've got great single target damage, they've got good objective burn. I mean, there's a lot that Sleekness have going for them here. So I think that they've made the necessary adjustments. I like their draft quite a bit more, and it gives them some priority in how these lanes are going to be played. At least in the duo side, they get a little bit more priority, but more so just when it comes to the groupings and the team fights, that they'll actually have someone to get the fight started for them and not just wait for the bolts to slap them in the face.
I love that little pan over that we got towards Haddix right after that Sobek gets locked in. You see him lean his chair all the way back. He's kind of sitting there, eyes closed, and he comes back. He has that look of like, well, I guess I get to just sit in the lane for a little while here. Sobek, not really a solo lane god that loves to box up against anybody, kind of one of the lower end clears of those Guardian solos.
Yeah, I'd say uninteractive. He's just not he's not interested in messing with what you're doing. He doesn't want you to mess with what he's doing. Just let him farm and get to that team fighting stage where he's going to be a lot more impactful.
If you want to talk about some team fight here, a Hun Bats for the final pick for the Olympus Bolts here in their jungler. Make sure that Lasberg can get something that he can carry on. We see some very impactful Fear No Evils across the entirety of this weekend. And rounding out this composition, I mean, you want to talk about some old school kind of, you know, reliving some old days with the console, just making as many Venn diagrams as you can here between Circle of Protection, Lightning Storm, and Fear No Evil. You got the giant circles all over.
Yeah, plenty of AoE for the Bolts. There's no doubt about that. And they also have great CC, great objective confirm, great objective burn. I mean, the Bolts have a lot of great stuff on their side. You know, their CC is a little bit harder to execute on. You know, Spirit Ball not always guaranteed at the long range, and Fear No Evil's an ultimate cooldown, and Hercules isn't guaranteed to hit his CC. So it's not easy to land necessarily, but if they start to land it, it's going to be very difficult for Sleekness because, yes, they've got this cleanse from Chiron. It's going to be hard to make that really valuable up against so much instant CC on the other side, so much range CC in particular. I think that Sleekness, like I said, they changed what I wanted to see them change. They got some fight starters. They got more objective presence. You know, they've got a great scaling composition. You get to the late game with Oleron, Chiron, Fafnir, and Sobek, and Serket just floating around, you're going to be able to do some good work. But I think the Bolts, I mean, if they play anything like we saw in game number 1, I think we're looking at a 2-0 lead.
A much more proactive team here out of Sleekness with this composition, but Aggro kind of looking down their line and looking what they're going up against to the Bolts here. Where do they want that proactiveness to start? Do you want it to be over in the dual lane, try and get Baron Jake down? Do you want to maybe try and shut the Zeus down in mid?
I think it's probably in mid. I think that the dual lane, ESET is just going to be so difficult to wrest lane control away from. Her wave clear is better than a Guardian. She's got a stun that's really strong. That silence sets up for a lot, and then Medusa has a great all-in. So I think that the Bolt's dual lane is probably a little bit too good at fighting, levels 3 onwards. So I'd probably try and go towards mid, use the range advantage from the Chiron, just use that ultimate after the setup from the Circuit. Should be nice and easy. Fafnir can just jump in and play pretty disrespectfully against Zeus. He doesn't have to really respect his damage because he can immune so much of it with the Draconic Corruption. If I'm on Sleekness, I think I'm looking to shut down Ven in the mid lane first.
I can only imagine the over-under on rotations from Haddix this game towards the mid. When we saw one at like level 4, level 5 last time around, can only imagine he may try and repeat the product. I mean, you got a Hercules now, which is just going to absolutely destroy any mage or any hunter that stands in his way in the early stages of the game. We'll see if the Bolts can get that early pressure rolling, or we'll see if Sleekness can pull this one back here and tie up the set. It's going to be a big one between both of these teams. Let's take it right in.
We'll see who's going to be able to take game number 2 here. It's Gorance Mifflin one more time, with the Bolts going to a much more, I want to say, interesting draft, because we get to see this ESET support finally from Jake. And I don't know that we've gotten to see Vin on this Zeus, and no, for a fact, not this week. And so it'll be something fun to watch from them. And, of course, for Sleekness, the massive turnaround that is necessary from what happened in game number 1.
Yeah, massive turnaround. I think maybe even might be an understatement. A complete 180, maybe the more apt way to word it. Worth noting that Ven's gone for a bit of an unorthodox starter item. Eye of the Jungle in that first slot for Zeus through mid. That item has seen some buffs throughout the year, and some of the upgrades have gotten significantly stronger as well. I'm keeping my eyes on Sleekness, right? Like, they've got some picks that can get proactive on the map, specifically Oath and this Circuit should be able to get the ball rolling pretty early on. You've got an aggressive mid laner this time around. Nehu likely trying to jam it. Keep your eyes on it.
Good stun from Jake. This is that threat ESET can pose in the duo lane. The damage that you have early on is a lot higher than what you'd get out of a typical Guardian, but she still has a good stun, a good silence. And you have Lasbra waiting patiently in the wings.
He's doing the thing.
And look, now he's just sitting in the purple buff. This is a perfect spot for, say, a
He's
blink.
doing the thing.
And he's going to jump forward. He's going to get a couple of autos, but that's going to be a good knockback. In fact, they're going to thwart the gank, and Sleekness managed to stay alive.
Dude, man, bro does lose out on his beads, though, so the next time we see a Spirit Ball connect from Awesome Jake, that very well could just be Dude, man, bro done in by Jake as well. But in rotating all the way to the duo lane, not hitting pay dirt, Lasbra has put himself slightly behind, and Oath looking to pay it back.
Yeah, he's going to copy what Lasbra did, but maybe pay it back tenfold. Jake doesn't have the health bar, doesn't have the knockback, and he's going to be first blood. Oath picking it up.
All right, some signs of life from Sleekness. First blood to themselves. Last time around, they'd also got first blood, but it was immediately answered by 3 kills within a 10-second window. This time, the Olympus Bolts have not got that quick response, and Barracuda taking some damage here. Dude Man Bro did not have his second ability stacked up, so the damage output a little bit hampered by that. This is exactly what we wanted to see from Sleekness. More proactivity on the map throughout the early and more calculated plays. They're not trading out nearly as much. They're not chasing nearly as far. So cleaner, clinical. Can they keep this up, though?
And I love immediately, just like a subtle flex, but like taking the Scorpion right in front of them always feels a little bit better. Jake's come back to the lane. Immediately hits a stun, immediately takes about half of his health bar, just trying to exist at this point. You can see that this Fafnir is helping things out, but another 2-man stun, a dash in from Bera, and they're looking for the kill onto this Ola run. They're chasing him. The shots are there.
Good
One
stun.
more finds it, and Bera is able to pay it back in kind.
We'll see if Nehu can survive this trade, and he will. Then drops down the Lightning Storm and drops down Nehu to about half HP. Nehu, on the other hand, just now ticking to 5, has still got the Centaurus ultimate to himself. The Olympus Bolts, well, off their pick, they've invaded the purple buff, putting themselves slightly in the lead, but that opens up Oath for the rotation in.
And now Jake trying to get away one more time. Not going to be able to do much. Sets up Oath to go down, though. Bera body blocks minions, Quig, too much to allow those shots to weave through, and he's just not quite level 5. So no ult to stop Oath there. And they're going to be able to pick up another kill onto the support for the Bolts.
Nehu hunting for Ven in the jungle, does not find him. Why are we looking at this, Doug? There's nothing that could happen in this lane, surely, right? Like that's a Sobek, man.
Oh, we got a pluck.
Oh, and an ult.
Actually,
Doug, how'd you know?
Haddix.
Whoa.
Depending on how this goes, yeah, a good knockback into a boulder with a push. Well, he already used the boulder.
Boulder's down.
If he hadn't used that, if he had like a second boulder, if Hercules had 2 charges on it, and a lot more mana here. I'm just making up scenarios now. At this point, yeah. If he just wasn't Hercules,
yeah, what if he was Hunbots
he probably
with ult?
could potentially kill him. You know, if Chronic died, Haddix could have been the one who potentially got the kill there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I mean, it didn't
How
happen.
many qualifiers did that sentence have? That was wild.
If Chronic died, and if Haddix had ult, and if he weren't Hercules in that situation, then maybe there could have been something that happens in the solo lane. Hey, look, the solo 1v1 isn't really what these two have picked these gods for. Well, Haddix did, certainly, but Chronic, not at all. He's just waiting for the ability to rotate out and set up for the rest of his team.
Oh, wow. Lasbra drops the Fear No Evil onto Nehu. He has no backup. He just kind of wanted to do it to him, and then didn't, unfortunately. So that's going to be a big team fight ult. It's just off the mark for a little while.
Yeah, well, you don't even get the beads either. Nehu, very disciplined in the saving of his defensive relic, so he doesn't have to worry about Lasbra for the near future. But the pacing this game favoring Sleekness. The kills favoring Sleekness. The current gold, well, that's not favoring Sleekness. Somehow, the Olympus Bolts have been able to pull back the just neutral farm. That macro play has been slightly superior from the SPL veterans, despite falling down a couple more times. That said, this is already a much better look for Sleekness in Game 2.
I think at this point, we were already at a 2,000 gold separation between the two teams, so anything less than that, I consider a huge win. And the fact that it's still virtually even, I think, is a benefit for Sleekness, as they managed to pull back a little bit in their favor. Oath is in the left side jungle. And he's not going to feint over towards the left lane like I thought he would. So he's just going to hang out, get those Oracle Harpies. And again, those little neutral objectives, that plus that Scorpion right next to it, are actually a big game changer early on when the game's this close.
Yeah, I think it was the Camelot Kings that said they're willing to like drop frenzies for these. Like the Greater Scorpions really can help out the pacing of the game, just trying to put yourselves in a better position. Not only do they increase the strength of your buffs, but it's some global gold and experience for your team. This time around, it's the Olympus Bolt to clear out the Greater Scorpion. On the Gold Fury side, you're going to spawn up that neutral objective very shortly. And they've, again, pushed themselves back to an even state. Sleekness kind of let off the gas, didn't they? They were getting proactive really early on. Oath makes some early rotations over towards the duo. But since then, it's been very quiet. Quig hasn't just yet left the lane. Instead, has been keeping his eyes on Barracuda, maybe just trying to facilitate Dude Man Bro. But if he sits here the entire time, Dude Man Bro is going to fall behind just by splitting farm. Where's Jake? He's in mid. He's hanging out with Ven.
Stealing good farm somewhere else.
Yeah.
And, well, Vin, so at this point last game, I actually am really proud of Sleekness here. Because at this point last game, we were looking at like 7 kills to 1 or something ridiculous like that, approaching 3,000 gold, and there was like 3 level differences in mid, things like that. They've slowed that down, although potentially still trying to find it. Nehu, great job juking out and dodging out that Spirit Ball so he doesn't get stunned away. Now Jake's the one who's isolated. It's not going to result in a kill, but it's a lot easier to turn that damage around, keep things going for him. This has been a great vibe, not even vibe check. The game 1 was a vibe check. This has been a cool reset for everything as you can. And Sleekness have been doing a good job keeping it reset.
They have. I wonder if Jake has put any more than 1 point into the Wing Gust. He lands every tick on a Nehu, and Nehu loses like 5% of his HP total, so not a whole lot of damage output from the E set just yet. More so concerned with that Gauntlet of Thieves, 25 stacks behind. Is Awesome Jake on the E set as well, so it's going to be a little while until he gets that defense all the way stacked up. Barracuda, he's being chased out.
Well, Quig takes a little bit of poke there in mid. Barra had a good dash to dodge out Oath. And it looks like he threw a couple of autos Oath's way as well. Just get the damage there. We have a lot of ults available here for the Bolts. Good team fight ones for the mid 3v3. Are they going to get aggressive onto this red buff? No, it's going to be Quig. Isolated again. A little bit of damage thrown his way. But no kills, no invades.
Haddix making his home inside of Chronic's tower. Takes a lot of damage. Quig, though, pushed into the wall.
Oh, what a good Spirit Ball, but what a better ult. Unfortunately, you're coming out of it waiting in a lightning storm. And Vin, is more than happy to just drop it with the one charge on you. Great taunt from Oath. Maybe they want that fight. You're going to have to be a lot more careful with the engage. Barra and Dude Man Bro rotating over. Dude Man Bro, notably on a lot of these picks when we watched yesterday, loved to hold W and take the fight. Now it's going to be Barra who instead is finding the damage, the ult, the spray, and then a smack down from Lasbra. Gets a kill onto the mid. Nehu's gone, and Chronic is being chased out.
He's popped the meditation. Should be resustaining a fair bit here. Haddock slow on the rotation. Decided to clear a couple more waves before he headed over, so Chronic able to work his way out. Dude Man Bro takes a lot of damage from Ven in the center of the map and is forced back to base almost entirely. The Olympus Bolts from behind, they got pushed out early, have been the proactive players. Yet again, Sleekness, in letting off the gas, have allowed the SPL veterans to dictate their own pace. Look at the gold, look at the experience. It's all Bolts.
Now, this is something that could very easily get out of hand, and something that could very easily balance things out. 3 people on Haddix, and Haddix at this point should be giggling, saying, cool, they'll kill me. Take a Gold Fury for free. In fact, he gets a 3-man push and a good boulder. He's not going to get a kill, but he's going to be just fine with that trade. Very classic as far as Smite goes. The minute anyone shows your face on that right-hand side of the map, that's an easy Fury.
Yeah, Haddix has been playing this game for a very long time. He's been in a couple of my ranked games, and every time they show up in his lane, I'm getting pinged to go to the Gold Fury, so I'm sure that's exactly what the communications sound like there for the Olympus Bolts. Haddix says, hey, they're camping me. Can you guys do something? And it's the Gold Fury for the Olympus Bolts, pushing them even further in the lead. And even with Haddix falling, it's not as if that lane advantage for Chronic is going to amount to too much for the 1v1 because it's Sobek. He's just going to keep doing Sobek stuff. What did Aggro call it? Uninteractive?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That sounds about right to me, too.
He just hangs out until team fights and I can pluck people.
Yeah, maybe I rotate out and land a pluck, says Chronic, at some point, because Haddix can't really die to me. And he's right. Maybe if you see some of this magical damage, Ven could rotate over, put some damage into Chronic. No magical defense just yet for the Sobek. It is Breastplate of Valor immediately into the Steel Mail. It's a whole lot of FizzD. Won't be able to deal with Jake or Ven.
It's not like a lot of damage is coming from Jake just yet. And admittedly probably won't for a little while. It looks like he's going into potentially a Sovereignty here, which has been a very popular item for him to pick up. And honestly, with Oath and Nehu right around there, yeah, just fine. Vin, on the other hand, the other person you highlighted in that for magical damage,
he's swing.
He's doing some crazy damage numbers already. And that's something they're going to need to be worried about. A detonate at this point, even with what he has, is going to be solid. And I expect to see a lot out of that. Lightning Storm, no Circle of Protection going to be dropped here.
Oh, whoa!
Did Sleekness get it? What the? What hit it? Where'd they go for it?
Centaurus.
It had to be, yeah, Nehu. What a good couple of shots. Plus, there was Circle of Protection on the other side. Like, that's a 1%er.
Yeah, Jake beefed it. He beefed it, man. And now Sleekness have got the Pyromancer. A little bit of additional gold experience and a quicker rotation out of base, but more importantly, slowing down the roll of the Olympus Bolts. This has been a weird game.
Yeah,
this has been strange. The pacing of it.
It like wants to speed up, but then it doesn't.
But it doesn't. No real team fights around these objectives just yet. Nice steal, though, from Nehu. Will help out the entirety of his team. XP roundup, dead even. Everybody equivalent to their opposition. Gold still slightly in favor of the Olympus Bolts. And Quig dropped low.
Yeah, taking a lot of damage. Detonate stacks, 3 of them on him. The damage is going to be good. Oath is getting aggressive, finds the ult onto Vin, tosses him back to the Sharks, but no one is chomping on this. Instead, the peel is good from Lasbra, and Oath pays with his life.
I don't even think anyone was there to help out Oath. Nehu, though, is able to sidestep the driving strike. Now it's Haddix isolated in the tower.
And a good pluck gets him 1 tower shot thrown his way, and the damage is there. Haddix has taken, I think, a little bit more than he bargained for, a little more now with Chronic chasing him. He's going to be able to get out of there no problem. No meds online for the Bolts right now, and that's an important detail because that's something that they won't have, that sustain that they've had so far this week.
No, none whatsoever, but they do have plenty of damage output. They do have plenty of CC. I think Awesome Jake has been sitting on tower lines for the majority of this game, just tossing out silence and stun and silence and stun, and there hasn't been too much answer to him particularly. Instead, Sleekness have decided to fight all the way around Jake. They'll dive onto Ven, or if Barracuda makes his rotation, and that's the only time they're fighting Barracuda. Nobody's come over to the long lane even once.
Well, we've got now a couple of faces showing up. Lasbra's over here again. But this is more of a defense from Sleekness than it is anything fruitful or explosive. They slowed down the Bolts, and really that's what we
crazy
want.
adjectives.
Yeah. Well, it's, no fight happened. And so I had to, say that, but colorful and pretty.
That's the most Chair 1 brain thing I've ever heard. No fight happened, me say word. Come on, dude.
Well, look, okay, hold on. Game 1 didn't do me a lot of justice. I had to reset. Now we'll figure it out. Haddix. You know what? I'm going to quote you. Nothing's going to happen over there.
Dude, there's nothing. They can't.
I saw it. My brain immediately latched onto the first thing I saw on the screen, and then it corrected where it's like,
ooh, fight maybe? No.
Wait, Guardian and Warrior? They bash skull against each other.
Yeah, not much can happen there, but you can evaluate at least the map state of the right-hand side. Haddix's tower nearly fallen down. Could help out Sleekness a little bit with some of that global XP and gold. More importantly, though, is this neutral objective that is just a couple of seconds away from respawning. The Oni Fury, or the Gold Fury rather, went the way of the Olympus Bolts for free last time. It was just Nehu who had attempted to show up, and his rotation was stopped by a Spirit Ball from Awesome Jake. This time, though, Sleekness, nearly even, only 1,500 gold separating these two squads, should be able to show up and put up a defense around the Fury.
I don't think I've seen Spirit Ball do so little damage, but it hasn't done a lot to Nehu. Beads good from Nehu, not so great there for Oath. They haven't come off cooldown, but he gets out alive. Lasbra is trying to do the same, and it looks like he's going to be able to disengage. Quig pushed under the tower. Chronic, Nehu trying to fight. Jake getting aggressive onto them. The Bolts can't seem to choose a target. Finally, Quig is the choice, and they're going to lock him down the minute he goes into that ult. Good damage, but no kill.
Heavenly Sprint expended, as well as Blink from Chronic, so two offensive relics lost out by Sleekness, whereas on the other side, it's Lasbra who uses both of his, and it's only Lasbra who expends his relics. But Lightning Storm, Fear No Evil, both being down, could open the door for Sleekness to find a good defense.
A good silence from Jake, a good stun from Jake. Now the chase down is good from the Bolts, and it's the Boulder that gets rid of Quig. Now they've got a 5v4 advantage, and the Oni Fury still standing right behind them. Started up. Cross your fingers that Jake can be a lot more on the mark with this Circle of Protection. Nehu does not have their ult available. So the Bolts are going to be able to get this Oni Fury after the kill and take a much larger lead now, 2,500.
Yeah, once Sleekness had already used the Dragon Transformation and the Sanctified Field, I'm not sure I really love their odds in a team fight up against the Olympus Bolts. We saw Chronic nearly able to pull Haddix all the way back into the Sanctified Field, and with Driving Strike down, could have potentially been one way to find a pick onto this nearly unkillable Hercules. Breastplate of Valor, Bulwark of Hope as well, already finished up. But Haddix also has beats. So, he's the hardest to kill guy on the map, bar none. It's not even close. By degrees. Like 3 degrees.
The 3?
Yeah, a degree of 3, I'd say.
That's a very small degree.
Nautical degrees.
I don't know anything about nautical degrees.
Neither do I, and I'm hoping no one else does that's listening.
That's I always had to look up because every now and then nautical mile for some reason comes up. And I have no idea what a nautical mile is in comparison to an actual mile, unless it just says, hey, this is a mile,
it's one on water.
Yeah. Well, hey, the Pyromancer picked up there for the Bolts. And you know what, Mifflin?
What's up?
Last time around, we were talking about this gold lead a little earlier, but now, 17 minutes in, it's about 3,000 gold, almost pushing the 4,000 mark. And this is a comfortable spot for the Bolts to be in.
It is, and experience is very similar to what we saw in Game 1 as well. There's only 1 or 2 levels separating each one of these individual members, so not much for the Olympus Bolts to lean on, and with Pyromancer and the Fury down, I don't imagine they're confident enough to step up to the Fire Giant, especially considering they didn't confirm the first Pyromancer regardless of having the Circle Protection. So the Olympus Bolts likely going to group up very soon and try and push down some of these permanent objectives. Right side Tier 1 tower is a stiff breeze from being knocked over. Tier 1 and mid might be full HP, but the fight potential of the Olympus Bolts is incredibly high. With Haddix already here as well, could be an opportunity. Or maybe just start on the left side because, well, they're already there.
Red buff secured, at least, for Sleekness. That might be one of the only things they're going to be able to control on this side of the map, though. The invade potential from the Bolts is always there, especially now they finally knocked down the first tower of the game over in the left side lane. And they're going to now turn that aggression, that mindset over to mid. They are deathballing. All 5 of them grouped up and just daring Sleekness to try and fight in this. It is a lot of single target CC and then a good chunk of multi-target CC that they can hit as well. Bolts are just going to walk in, take the tier 1, and then it all will dissipate.
Yeah, I'm just not certain that the Olympus Bolts are so far ahead that Sleekness should be putting up 0 defense on a full HP tower. Like, I get that it's a tier 1. We're a little bit later in the game. It's not that valuable, but why?
Well, why is what Dude Man Bro is asking right there. A beautiful statue of Olaron now
Is it
put
always
up.
blue?
Well, I think it's with this skin that he's been playing. That is.
Oh, Barracuda turned him into an ice statue. Then being turned into a corpse by Oath, who's able to pick him up in mid. And Awesome Jake on this E set should not have enough damage to keep that one rolling.
I'm gonna note because Vin, yeah, that like they made into a corpse, but like those statues are technically corpses.
Okay,
still. Like
all
that is
right.
a dead body, just immortalized.
Thanks,
Either way,
Gore.
yeah, no, the Bolts are not as ahead as you would expect, especially after game 1. And this is a good sign from Sleekness. They are down 3,000 gold. That's something they're going to need to worry about. And like you said, haven't put up too much of a defense, at least around some of these towers that have gone down. But finding a pick onto Venenu is actually a huge deal, slowing down a lot of the damage the Bolts are going to be able to output and slow down their team fight a little bit.
And they take away Ven's bead, so if Oath is able to close gap onto him yet again, could even finish off that kill and transition themselves into a Fire Giant point. We're starting to reach that point of the game as well. 20 minutes in, both of these teams have got decent ability to clear out this objective. Sleekness a little bit more reliant on just the DPS confirmation advantage, obviously, to the Olympus Bolts.
Lasberg gets stunned by a hammer. Oath is Cirquette, so has more mobility than anyone needs, but is actually, I guess, not than anyone needs, that he exactly needs in order to get out of here. And now they're grouping. But it's this, like, it feels like a Fire Giant dance, just not around a Fire Giant, right? Like, everyone's, like, kind of, okay, do we want to fight? Like, do I want to take this? No, I'm going to back up. The other team gets a little aggressive. Finally, they all fall back.
I think it's more so that neither team is in a position to do anything. The Olympus Bolts have done everything that they can. They're suffering from success. Fury's already dead. Pyromancer's already dead. They've cleared out every single tier 1 except for, again, Stiff Breeze right side tier 1 tower. There's nothing for the Bolts to do until they can get a little bit more farm under their belts, and Sleekness seem to be happy, contented with this slower pace. Now that the Fury's back up, POI has spawned with it. The Olympus Bolts grouping up early. Sleekness going to put up their first defense on a neutral objective.
And I love the way this looks. And like you said, probably happy for the Bolts, something that they get to do. 21 minutes in, and it's going to be Lasber immediately onto the back line. Knows Dude Man Bro doesn't have the beads, but isn't able to find the kill just yet. Dude Man Bro's low boulder is good, and the bounce back from Haddix is what finds the kill. That's the opener for this fight. And now immediately Vin, Circle of Protection on top of a Lightning Storm, tries to get some damage out there. Quig is looking to peel. Chronic, Oath are in this fight, but I don't think they want to be much longer. They're isolating Vin, they're killing him off, but they're paying for it with so much of their health bars. Quig is still alive, and Quig is able to run away. Same thing for Chronic, for Oath, and even Nehu, who has managed to slip through the Bolt's grasp, but it's not going to last forever. Quig is chased down by Lasbra. Chronic getting chased down now by 2 members, and then of course everybody else looking to zone out Oath and Nehu, the last 2 survivors for Sleekness.
Then traded out for the majority of Sleekness's roster here. Haddix finds the TKO into both Oath and Nehu. Do the Olympus Bolts have enough damage to fall back to the Primal Fury? I'd say so, especially considering nobody from Sleekness is anywhere in range to put up any form of defense here. Sleekness's engage was curious, to say the least. Quig goes in, finds the double stun onto both Ven and Jake, I believe it was. Oath hovering nearby, never really got involved in the team fight proper until he eventually confirms that kill in Ven with his own ultimate. But the majority of Sleekness were playing very far back. It's as if this team is of 2 minds, 2 members diving, and the rest of them saying, hey guys, we're behind. Maybe we don't go in on this team fight. And a team fight that is divided is not one that's going to be won. And the Olympus Bolts were on the same page. It was peel for Ven. Didn't work out, but you did find the revenge kill at least, and now an advantage state that should move you over towards the Pyro and subsequently the Fire.
This is a good spot for them to be in. We talked a lot about what they're capable of. Vin has taken a lot of damage from Oath. Oath has been great at getting to the Zeus, throwing the ult on Zeus, and then usually picking up the kill. This time Vin survives, although with a sliver of health. The team is left zoning and picking and securing a Pyromancer. So now we go back to where we were a couple of minutes ago with just the Fire Giant as the neutral objective available. But the Bolts are in a much better spot now than they were then.
Yeah, they've gotten a couple more items. Ven started to look towards defense in his last slot. 4 goes, finishing off the magical focus, and instead says, O's been diving me too much. I need to be able to survive at least that bit of burst, and should be able to do so now. The Olympus Bolts jockeying for position, trying to force out Sleekness.
Well, right now, Nehu has been forced out the way you would want it. Pushed back by Haddix, feared by Lasbra, and now killed off our 2 members of Sleekness. The chase is on. Dude Man Bro just trying to stay alive, and that is where these fields are going to be so helpful, at least slowing down the Bolts. But I've got bad news for Sleekness. That is not their goal. Fire Giant burned down and secured onto 5 members of the Bolts.
Hey, we got to see some of that new Medusa tech. Her dash does damage to minions now. Barracuda uses it on the Fire Giant to try and secure the Olympus Bolts. Divide and conquer. Take the team fight and the objective and the Stiff Breeze Tier 1 tower on right, and potentially a Tier 2 as well, because Haddix is running amok in Sleekness's backline. They're just looking at him. They need to kill him.
Yeah.
They've dedicated so much.
2 people still waiting to respawn. Haddix has the other 3 corralled around this red buff. I mean, it is pretty much picture perfect for just keeping them locked away. That Phoenix is gone on right-hand side.
Straight up.
And so that is about as simple as it gets. And now they've got a kill onto Dude Man Bro. A minute without the Ola run. Quig leaps away. It looks like Oath was able to disengage as well, but it might have been too late.
So Ven and Barracuda strip away the right side Phoenix and regroup with the rest of the team. Quig, tossed backwards, is able to escape yet again. 35 seconds left on your late game hyper carry Ola run, so the Olympus Bolts, why let off the gas? Let's push a Phoenix.
Yeah, Oath might be seeing red, watches as Lasbra secures and walks up and picks up his speed buff. That is just a no-go. Now you know the Bolts have put some hatred into Sleekness. We'll see if they're going to be able to find a fight that they want. The Phoenix goes down, Lightning Storm, Fear No Evil, all of it getting dropped, and Quig goes along with it. Dude Man Bro is about to respawn, but he's respawning to a team in stitches. They have nothing left for them. Nehu, Oath, and now the Ola run not even going to get the chance to come in. The Bolts just burn the Titan.
Man, Sleekness got off to a much, much better start this time. They dictated the pace for all of 2 engagements, and then they just stopped. They're like, we've done it. Success. Victory dance. Not quite the case. You gotta keep on the gas pedal. The second Sleekness stopped making proactive plays, what did the Bolts do? They made proactive plays. They went to the Gold Fury. They took it. They went to the Pyromancer, got it stolen. Not a big deal, I suppose. Cut down that gap. Sleekness is a team that generally wins off of confident, aggressive plays, but it feels like they're just not playing with that same level of confidence. They're scared of the Bolts.
And the Bolts are absolutely happy with it. If you're going to give them all that room to operate, they're going to be fine. The only time that they didn't have anything to do was when there was nothing available on the map. Definitely made the game, well, actually, it was about the same length, honestly, at the end of the day.
I think so.
It just took a little bit longer to get there, or at least it feels like it did in terms of the path. Good objectives from the Bolts, clean play from them. They're 1 game from going to Worlds. That's the important part here. And so far, Sleekness has not seemed to be able to slow them down enough. We'll see whether or not they're going to be able to do so and keep that going, if the set is going to be 3 or 5, or maybe I guess just 4, somewhere in the middle there.
Any number of games between 3 and 5.
Yeah, it could be any number of games at any given time between 3 and 5, based on how Sleekness perform, and we'll find out whether or not it's going to be the lower of those right after this.
I gave up dabbing for Lynn.
Cool. No more dabbing for Final. He looked at me and said, I'm going to be on that stage next year. I'm going to become a world champion.
Ripping through! Titan down, ball 3! A double kill myself!
Happened to you now. Am I the only one who's struggling to friends are now my enemies. Always tell you what to do. Can't keep up with all the bullshit they're throwing your way. Always looking for the easy way. Now they're walking over you. Yeah. Never felt so damn frustrated. You're just wasting my time. All the feelings that I dread. Can't believe the words you said. Somebody save me. Now we're hanging by a thread and it's ringing in my head.
This often you caught me off guard. All of my friends said you moved out west. You tell me stories underneath sunsets. Could it be more than just one night? Kissing the cab ride, head turning left, right. Get a ticket for two to wherever you choose. Drinking some red out of the blue. You say my name with your accent, makes me remember how much I missed you. Hope you're planning to stay for a million days. You'll be my summer in December. Hey boy, trust my intuitions always. I'm not superstitious, I got lucky. Stole your heart and it was mine for the taking.
SLEEKNESS, man, and these reverse sweep sets. Yeah, somebody grab the broom, quick.
He'll find a double kill. And that's just clean play from the jump. Look at him jumping through. He knows what he just did.
They have controlled the game at certain stages, but couldn't close it out. And right now, one side of the FG, and that's all she wrote. They will get 2 kills, but it feels like a hell of a lot more. It's back to the FG. Unbelievable call. What a call.
Hey there, Smite fans, Aggro here. Look, every single year, the SPL just keeps getting better. Season 7 was incredible, and in Season 8, I'm sure our players are gonna take their game to the next level. But in order to do that, they're gonna need the best gear they can get their hands on. And that's why I'm so excited to announce the title sponsor for Season 8 of the SPL is Alienware. Yeah, that Alienware. Our players are getting the best of the best in computer gaming. These Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition PC setups are insane. Not only will these be the PCs that the players will compete on once we are in studio, but Alienware is also providing one for each player at their home setup to make sure their practice is as good as possible. Now let's get down to brass tacks. The specs on these Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition desktops are amazing. An AMD Ryzen 9 16-core processor.
That's a lot of cores.
That's plenty of processing power.
That's a lot of cores. Plenty of cores.
If you want to stream, this is the way to go.
I know a lot about my cores, so. I mean, Pilates, right?
64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM.
What? Is that true?
That is true. I mean, this thing has 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM.
Which you can do literally anything with.
Literally anything.
I've never had more than 16 gigs.
That's quadruple the amount I have at home.
And one of the hottest commodities in the PC world, an NVIDIA GeForce 3090 graphics card.
Insane how much better this is than what I have.
The best graphics you really need, Ultra, of course.
Content's gonna look good.
And what's the point of all the power if you can't see it? Players will also be using the Alienware 25-inch 240 Hz monitors.
Man, when I load into scrims with this bad boy, I'm gonna feed so hard. And it's gonna be in perfect picture quality.
We are so excited to be partnering with Alienware for Season 8 of the Smite Pro League. And the best part is, this VIP treatment, it's not just for the pros. You too can get the best possible Smite experience. Just go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW to get special discounts on some of Alienware's best products. Thanks again to Alienware. Make sure you're following them on Twitter and Instagram. That's at Alienware on both platforms. And you can join their community at alienwarearena.com.
You want to have the best graphics possible? You want your content to look good? You want to be able to do literally anything that you want? Well, make sure that you pick up yourself one of our Alienware PCs that are available to all of our players, all of our pros here in studio, at their home, and to you at home. Go to smitegame.com/Alienware. Use code SMITEAW so that way you can get a discount on a nice one of those machines of your own so that you can do just about anything that you could ever want. And maybe you too can also feed in picture-perfect quality. Thank you to our good friends at Alienware for being the title sponsor of Season 8 of the SPL and bringing us all the action that we've had out here. Aggro, game number 2, much stronger look here out of Sleekness. They
definitely
got it going early.
Yep.
And then they stopped.
Yeah, it was a lot of good contests the first like 15 or so minutes. You know, things were going well. I was like, okay, you know, they're making the boats work for it. They're not just giving up free fights. They're not just getting engaged upon and doing nothing. And then it was the bolts going, all right, here we go. It's time for a Gold Fury. What are you going to do here? And Sleekness is nowhere. Okay, it's time for a Tier 1 Tower. Like, let's go. Nowhere. They just stopped being ready to go to those objectives. And the Olympus bolts just started winning fight after fight after fight because they were just in superior position in comparison to Sleekness. And, you know, we talk about pace of play being a huge difference at the SPL level versus the SCC level, whereas in the SCC, you know, you might group for an objective and then go and farm for a little bit and reset and let everyone get everything back, and then you'll fight again and, you know, try and do it that way. The SPL, man, they do not let you rest. You are fighting, and then you're fighting, and then you're fighting, and then you're fighting, or you're giving it up. Those are your only options, and Sleekness chose the latter. They just they stopped fighting, and the bolts kept.
Well, I mean, unless you're in solo lane in this game, and then you don't really get to do a whole lot of fighting, you just kind of sit back and watch each other, smack a couple rocks with each other up until you get towards the latter portion. For hi-rez, I mean, he's got to coast through like the first 12 or so levels of the game. The most action that he saw in that solo lane was when 3 players of SLEEKNESS rotated over to try and kill him. And they did. They killed him. But then they gave up that Gold Fury. Lasbra and Barracuda just kind of got to live freely throughout this game. I mean, a 9.0 KDA out of Lasbra, a 7+ KDA out of Barracuda there in that game. 4-0-6 and 6-0-6 for those 2 players. And when your carry, specifically your Hunter and your Jungler, just go undying for pretty much, well, technically literally the entire game here, it's never going to be a fun time for SLEEKNESS to fight that.
No, it's not going to be easy. And Nehu and Dudeman Bro, they go 0-4 on their kills. No kills, a bunch of deaths. So definitely a tough game. Dudeman Bro on this Ola run was not able to survive through really any engagement. I think it's just time to give the man his Hachiman. Izanami continues to get banned from him. Clearly that is a priority to take that away. SLEEKNESS is going to be in the first pick position this time. Again, their choice. They've chosen to be first pick both of the 2 games that they've had the opportunity. They first picked Olaron last game, and that's where it puts you in a bad spot because now you probably have to ban Olaron. I don't think that you should pick it again. Maybe with a different support, but it was really more in the mid game and team fight phase that the Olaron continued to struggle. So not an easy position to be in if you're SLEEKNESS.
Lasbra plays 20 wards that game, more than anybody else, more than his support. Making sure to keep that vision out there in the jungle so he can get those ganks off towards the end stages of the game. Olympus Bolts prepping themselves, because I think Goremizer contextualized it really well. They're 1 game away from going to the World Championships. All they've got to do is win this one here. Lasbra, happy as can be. All the Bolts look very calm and very eager to get this win here and seal the deal.
Yeah, I mean, even though that game was close through the mid game, only a few thousand gold in the lead for the Bolts, like 2K or 3K at 15 minutes or so. You never felt like they were out of control. That there was any opportunity for SLEEKNESS to start to impose their will. It was always, what are the Bolts going to be doing? At no point in this set has SLEEKNESS been able to dictate pace, dictate engagement, anything along that line. And so if I'm SLEEKNESS, I don't think I'm picking a single scaling late game character. I think I would just go all early game and let's either lose instantly or actually give ourselves a chance. Because waiting around for the Bolts to mess up is not going to be a winning formula. They have to get the initiative going on their side this time around.
And this is the game where you got to flip all the way back in the playbook notebook and pull that out because you need that win here to keep your chances alive. Olympus Bolts, they really don't have to change a whole lot here. They can run seemingly whatever they want up into this composition because SLEEKNESS hasn't really had an answer to it as of yet throughout these 2 games. hi-rez, the man on your screen, he's been getting to chill in solo lane for pretty much both of these games, kind of forcing himself to rotate out of lane just so he can get any kind of fighting going.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the type of solo laners that he's playing up against. Chronic on Wukong is not really going to fight you. Certainly not going to fight you on Sobek, so that's just kind of the way it goes with the type of matchups he's had over there.
Easy there, Lasbra. I thought he was going to jump out at the screen. I mean, he's getting pumped up. He's getting
amped.
excited. I mean, how can you not be excited at this point? I'll say it one more time. I mean, they're 1 game away from the World Championships. And can it be done right here, right now? Game number 3, picks and bans. And SLEEKNESS will be the first ones up in those picks and bans. We've been seeing a lot of priority of taking things like Camazotz off the table. The Bolts have been banning away Nike. They've been banning away Achilles. SLEEKNESS has been focusing a lot of Umoja as far as their first bans have been concerned.
Yeah, I mean, the ban last time for SLEEKNESS, it was Odin, Camazotz, Umoja. So, like I said, unless you're going to be willing to first pick Olaron, you probably need to ban him because the Bolts have looked too good with that pick. So what of those options do you leave open? It's not Camazotz. I think it's probably Odin, just based on the fact that they left that open in Game 1 as well, but then Lasbra kind of owned him with it. So you're not finding an easy answer there.
Izanami will be the first ban out of the Bolts. That will not change. And Dudeman Bro, 429 has not been allowed to play this Hunter for some time. The Hachiman is kind of the god that he's popped off with so many times in the past. I'm honestly surprised that Sleekness hasn't thrown that God over to him at some point in this set and try and let him pop.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Olarun pick makes sense there. You want to try and, get yourself some team fight prowess, but I agree. I think it's all Hachiman from here. I'm very surprised at this Achilles ban from Sleekness, especially considering that was the ban from the Bolts last game, but I guess they just trade. They literally just trade the Achilles and the Odin bans. That does leave Olarun up. I would be surprised if Sleekness take it, but you don't really want to pick Hachiman here. Something to be said for sticking to your guns and sticking to your prep work. And if you feel like Olarun has been good for you in practice and, you come in with a little sheet of the gods you prioritize in order for first pick, and if Olarun is high up there, then just one bad game might not be worth throwing it out. So despite it struggling, I know I said I would prefer them to change it up. But if they don't have another pick that they feel like is really valuable in that first pick slot, then that could work.
Well, Eset and Zeus were the first two gods out of the Bolts in game number 2, taking the Eset away from Quig, putting it on Jake. I believe he even did play it in their set up against the Valkyries previously on in the week. And they are hovering the Eset. They were hovering the Alpoash, but that's just because it shares the same, at least first 2 letters with Amuz and Cobb, so they were just making sure to wrap around there. Will be the AMC and Eset one more time now here for the Bolts. As Amuz and Cobb, we've been seeing a little bit of flexibility with it. Maybe give over towards mid, maybe towards Hunter.
Yeah, it's nice and open, and you don't want Nehu to get that pick if you can help it, though he had the option last game and chose the Chiron over the AMC, so maybe he wouldn't have gone for it, but just looking to throw a bit of a different look here at Sleekness. Wouldn't be surprised if this is just an AMC in the mid lane and then another traditional Hunter for them there for Barracuda.
It was the Fafnir last time. It'll be the Fafnir once again for Sleekness to try and round out this dual lane, get them something early, getting something aggressive, and something that can shred through some of the objectives. But they had this same composition to try and burn through objectives last game, and they just weren't. It's the same top 3 out of Sleekness that they saw in game 2.
Well, remember that they got off to a fine start in the last game. You can potentially make some adjustments in the mid game and make that type of composition work, but not having an answer again for this Hercules for Haddix, though, in their defense, I'm not sure that anyone really has. I think that Sleekness, the big thing that I would change, again, I want them to have fight starters. I want them to be able to initiate fights on their own. None of the characters they have so far really do that. Need to get that out of your jungle and your solo laner. I think I'd go, ideally, I'm thinking like Mulan here for Chronic. Just something that can actually fight, that can actually start fights later on in the game, and that you can have a lane with pressure to lean on.
Mulan would be an interesting one. We haven't really seen a whole lot of her so far this tournament. We saw a very slight rise of her during those Phase 3 playoffs. She became a real dominant lane bully after the buffs that she had received. A lot of the pros were starting to see some light in that god, but been very quiet from that solo lane. I think it's mostly just because we've been seeing almost nonstop Camazotz and Achilles up until now. We've been seeing some Nike and finally here a little bit of difference with that Hercules. But the first bans out here by the Bolts in that second phase, the Susano Thor, so still putting some priority towards Oath. And on the opposite side here, Sleekness will ban away Soul and Hun Bats.
Yeah, no one Lazarus to reprise that role that he played in the last game. So this makes some sense to me. Bolt's likely going to end up taking Barracuda's pick here because that's what they did last time. It was Medusa each of the last 2 games for Barra. And you would be a little physical heavy if you go AMC, Hercules, Medusa, and then an Assassin for Lasbra. But with the percent pen on Stinger, it doesn't hurt as badly to have an AMC on a 4 physical composition. He could go Freya, certainly an option, but that does, when we're thinking about magical ADCs for Barra, I think Soul and I think Olarun. I don't really think Freya quite as much.
Well, it will not be either of those. Will not be a magical hunter, will not be another physical hunter. Instead, it will be Discordia, who has seen some pop-up here and there, a ban targeted one way, a pickup towards Dardes, and now it'll go into the hands of Venenu for the mid lane of the Bolt. So they do just have one final pick for Lasbra to kind of see the rest of the composition. And Daji, who's been seeing a lot of bans this weekend, will finally make her way through on the Sleekness draft.
Yeah, and there's, 2 people in the duo lane who don't have any CC immunity. So that feels pretty good, I would say, here for Oath. And it is a hyper carry style jungler, but it is not pressure. You can start fights with it. And Chalk is the pick. And you know what? I was asking for something with pressure that can start fights that you can potentially fight around. I don't see why that can't be Chalk. It's definitely not the the prototypical pressure pick over in the solo lane right now, but I think that the prototypical stuff hasn't been working for Sleekness, so you got to change something up.
Oh, potentially. Taking a page out of Sam for Soccer's book here are the Olympus Bolts, hovering a Mercury. And the reason I even just say Sam for Soccer is because he's one of, not the only, but one of the only junglers in the SPL who is still picking up this god. He had an insane, 4 or 5 games that he got to play in the course of 2 sets on this god, made it look great. Still being hovered, not quite locked in here. I mean, he's got anything that he can want to go up against this composition with the dodgy, the chalk, to try and control that right lane. Maybe something to give Haddix a little bit of a bolster over here in this solo lane.
Yeah, I think that Cirquette is looking pretty good to me. I mean, Mercury is obviously fine. It does give you some CC immunity, though not super quickly. If you're dodgy you can, and he doesn't respect the insta-pull, you can just go up in the Powwow, shoot, cancel right away, and maybe catch him. Now it's a Pele hover, which is one of Lasber's old signature gods. I think Pele is really undervalued right now. I think that she's in a pretty strong spot and still does exactly what her job is, which is 1-for-1ing for the most valuable member of the enemy team. Ola Run is a good one to just guarantee a 1-for-1 for every single time if you can get it. But it's neither.
Nope, it's the fake out.
It's Cirquette, and Cirquette is Lasber's most played god this season. It's fantastic up against the chalk, shutting down that healing. Great against the Ola Run. You know, just don't have to worry about Sanctified Field. Just drop Last Breath on him, let him go. You don't have to worry about it too much. I think that overall, the Bolts composition is very similar to what we saw last game, where it's CC heavy, good mid game, good early game. They've got way more pressure on the map than Sleekness does, and that was a big difference for them these last 2 games, especially in this duo lane. The Bolts are just drafting more pressure however they need to get it, and they've gotten it again here with Amos and Cobb and set.
And we were talking about the dodgy here in the jungle for Oath. He's played a lot of, or mostly he's had a lot of Banso on his way towards the Susano, which is a god, very heavy CC, be able to get in, get out in any of these lanes. And one thing that you kind of brought up was the lack of CC immunity towards the duo lane. Is this really where Oath needs to just stand his ground, kind of dig his heels in that duo lane?
Yeah, it would be a good spot to do it once he hits level 5 for sure. Pre-5, I don't expect any ganks to come through really anywhere. That's not what this composition does very well. They're very ultimate-centric. You know, Ola Run is nowhere near as strong without his ultimate as he has with, and sure, you can say that about a lot of characters, but Sanctified Field, Powwow, these are really, really core to these characters' identities, and they're not going to be able to fight really well without them. So Sleekness has to be very smart about when and where they are taking their fights, and that we've seen that has not necessarily been a strength of this team so far here today. It's really been about just trying to hold on for dear life while the Bolts are jostling them around the map. I'm a little worried that if Sleekness just wastes an Ola Run ult, wastes a dodgy ult, that they're not going to have a lot of recourse for what the Bolts are doing.
It has felt a lot of like Sleekness trying to just not lose over anything else. The proactive nature of Game 2 helped them out earlier on, and then they just tried their best to hold on once the Bolts started running at them. And they really got to really fight this time around if they have any hopes of taking down the Olympus Bolts in Game 3, keeping this set alive and keeping their chances towards Worlds up here. Aggro, do you think that this is the composition for Sleekness to take down the Olympus Bolts?
Don't love their chances, J-Mac. The Bolts have just been playing too well. I think they're locked in to go to Worlds.
This is going to be a big mountain for Sleekness to climb. If they have any hopes taking down the Bolts, they've got to do it right here in game number 3. And what a comp that they have to run it up against. The E set that was so signature for Quig all throughout the SCC. A pick that was so unanimous with this team, synonymous with him specifically, has been taken away, and now it's going to be used against him for the 2nd time in a row. Can Sleekness pull this one back? Can they bring us to a Game 4 where the Olympus Bolt's going to seal the deal and move on to Worlds in January? This is the last opportunity for them to do so, Aggro.
I mean, it's got to be centered around this duo lane, getting some pressure back from what the Bolts have been doing over there. You know, maybe this chalk can make something happen from Chronic and try and put some pressure on Haddix.
It's going to be a big one. Can Sleekness do it here in game number 3? Will they stop the Bolts, or will the Bolts trample over and take the set?
That's the question. It's do or die right now if you are Sleekness, so you have to get things started for you. Mifflin over here. That is a special technique by Sasuke. Just throwing that out there. I knew exactly. I could see it out of the corner of my eye. The minute you went for the
with the animes.
I also, actually, no joke. I watched. I rewatched all of Naruto last year.
What?
Rewatched?
Well,
yeah.
That's like 2,400 episodes then, man. Come on.
It's only like 500.
The first time. And then
if you watch it again, it's like 1,000. But
bro, stop checking my
like
math
6
and cast
years.
the game. Why don't you? Huh?
Yeah. Okay. So hey, let's talk about AMC. Specifically, he been doing a lot of winning. He's got 12 out of 15 games so far that have been wins for this tournament. Vin's so low. But Nehu's not going to be able to get the kill.
What
Instead,
about
it's Jake once again going
No
down.
way.
No, he's walking
No.
out alive. That is absolutely insane just to be able to survive that.
Well, he's still sticking around. Quig might be able to do it on his own with a jump hammer. Jake playing with fire. Maybe he's just baiting Lasbra. He's going to try again.
He's going to come right on through immediately onto Dude Man Bro. They're attacking Quig. That is their target. He knows he can't get away, but a good stun slows things down. Quig goes down for first blood, but Oath and Nehu are here. Jake is low, and it has to be a return kill. At least one right there onto the support. And now Lasbra, Barra forced to run for their lives. Bad news for AMC. He doesn't run very well, and they've got 3 full health bars chasing him down. That's going to be the gap closer. Oath gets the kill, and it's a double for the jungle.
And you're wondering to yourself, okay, well, Nehu made a rotation about 20 seconds ago. Where's Ven at? He was clearing the back camps on the other side. Every man for himself are the Olympus Bolts right now. And in doing so, Ven at least gets a slight lead for himself. The duo lane probably not super happy about his absence, though.
Vin, hey guys, just next time don't get ganked.
Yeah.
Duh.
Simply escape. You already got first blood. Duh.
And that first blood doesn't mean too much now. It's 50 gold that's separating these teams. That's a ward. That is a single ward, and
hey,
even
wards
still
win games.
Spread out among 5 players. That's not a single ward. Dude Man Bro stunned out, but good little knockback keeps some gap between him and Jake. Minion Wave's going to be there, and a lot of that pressure disappears. At least the pressure for the Bolts, the pressure from Sleekness, might be on the rise, because guess who's here? It's Nehu and Quig, and they've got Jake in their sights. Hammer just off the mark.
Wait, what?
And Dude Man Bro dies. Credit to Barra.
My man died to Wave. He lost
to
a fight
the minions.
to NPCs. Yeah, we'll see if Nehu and Quig can at least die to some PvP here. Certainly not. He's able to walk his way out of here. Maybe if we get an opportunity, we can get a look back. Oath taking a 1v1 up against Lasbra. Lasbra doesn't have a whole lot of escape here. But let's see it. What happened, Dude Man Bro?
Okay, so they're hitting Quig here, first off. All of the damage is on Quig. Still on Quig.
Uh-huh.
Bees must have transferred there.
Oh, this is way earlier.
Okay, that makes way more sense. Okay, that makes way more sense. Okay, now we're chasing him down. We know how this one shakes out.
Yeah, Barracuda dies, I'm pretty sure.
And you know what? You're right.
Yeah, okay.
He can't run very far.
No, not far at all. So we will not be seeing how Dude Man Bro falls down.
I do still want to know.
It was minions, man. We know.
Well, I know it was minions, but I want to know how.
Yeah, the circumstances with which Dude Man Bro found himself tanking up those minions. Barracuda has his eyes on Quig, but nobody else nearby. And Nehu, not nearly as lucky, surrounded. Never mind.
Yeah, I was going to say the apple bounces around. That was that awkward, okay, wait, what's going to happen? Where's the breakthrough? What's the first action? And then it never came. The Bolts opting to play that one safe. They've gotten themselves up 500 gold, and of course a second kill that probably shouldn't be there for them either way. They are happy with the pace of this so far. Maybe want to slow down Oath, who is now 3-0 on this Daji, and doing exactly what they wanted, which is sitting on the duo lane and getting him ahead.
And he's been doing a great job of it. Oath has been the silver lining, the one ray of hope for Sleek. Okay, well,
I guess they're not ahead.
No, they're behind. Well, that's because Barracuda's got 2 kills, and it's maybe only about a half level over Dude Man Bro, so not the biggest deal, but
he got one of them.
Yeah, Oath's got a lead over Lasbra at least. Okay, what's going on, Dude Man? No shot, bro. Come on. You don't win those, buddy. You simply do not. Archers are pretty strong that early in the game. Nice attempt from the Ola run to clear out the wave. Had he just used the heal on himself, I think he probably just lives, but he tries to step up to deal damage. I don't know why I'm analyzing this man's fight against minions. What am I doing? Ask me a question about something else.
Something else. Hold on. Let's break it down. Let's figure it out. I wasn't prepared for that, so this is me buying time. Let's talk about Jake. He's getting a stun here and starting up a fight, but not a lot of damage so far. Stinger thrown out. Sanctified Fields in response. Bear's caught in them, and he is slow, but it's Dude Man Bro eating a majority of the damage. Quig is low. A couple of autos is all Bear has to weave in here, but Oath has rotated in. Vin has rotated in, and with Veneno here, that's at least going to be 1 kill on the side of the Bolts. They're trying to get a little bit more in retaliation. They're going to find Dude Man Bro. Oath used his ult and didn't pull Bera, and now the collapse from the Bolts is in. Lasbra about to join the fray alongside Nehu. Vin loses his life, but he's found 2. Now it's a 3v2. Bera, no mana to work with. Same thing for Jake, but they're dealing the damage anyway, and they find the kill onto Oath, but he trades his life out of there. Nehu, last man standing in the duo lane for Sleekness. Are they going to be able to kill him? I thought it was a sure thing, but now he's juking around. There's the stun, and that should be the lockdown. Lasbra with the kill, and the Bolts get a big swing.
We are 6 minutes into this game, and that is Nehu's 4th excursion to the long lane. My man does not want to go back towards mid. The Olympus Bolts get the better end of this trade and find themselves ahead in the kill department, but only just for a moment. If Sleekness have their way, Lasbra dropped incredibly low there, but is able to disengage himself. Oath still maintaining a 1-level lead in the jungle. Lasbra has been spending a lot of time farming, but Oath has been spending a lot of time killing the opposition. 4-1-1, 100% affected kills by Sleekness' jungler.
He has been finding a majority of them in the duo lane. 3 of the kills that Sleekness have been able to pick. Actually, so let's face it, all 5 of the kills have happened in the duo lane.
Yep.
3 of them onto the duo lane of the Bolts. Bera, a pretty easy, susceptible target here in the AMC.
Still ahead, though.
And still hits pretty hard. Yeah, I think he's going to be just fine. The thing that I'm going to look at here.
Pause it. Go ahead.
Is realistically the Chalk. We haven't talked about him at all.
He's a soul laner.
It's a good time to jump over here. What does he bring for Sleekness?
He brings the reins, quite literally. Nehu caught out in mid.
You got saved there. Hold on.
Takes so much damage. Can he get the revive with Centaurus? I don't know.
Oh, the shots are there, but no. Come on, man. Chronic takes it. Nehu has to go down because of it. And this is as outrageous as this game is in terms of pace. Almost 14 kills in half that many minutes. It is only 2,000 gold for the Bolts.
You're the only guy who would call 13 almost 14 kills.
I wanted it so I could say the half thing. I had to round up for my phrasing.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And 13 is almost 14.
Yeah. I mean,
by most metrics.
You are literally right. But most people would call a spade a spade.
Hey, look, technically correct is the best kind of correct, according to bureaucrats. Either way, we can see what Chronic does here. Oh, yeah, wait, this is where he took the kill from Nehu, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Oh, yeah, no. Nehu probably just survives that if Chronic does it. I didn't realize another shot was literally on the way. But now the Chalk is only 1 level down on Haddix in the soul lane. And you asked me earlier, what does Chalk bring? He brings AoE disruption. He brings the reins. He brings some self-healing, great space control. If you utilize the Axe Toss into 3rd ability combo, it's a massive slow and attack speed steal. So that is one thing that's going to be pretty useful for Sleekness come team fight time. Barracuda, in particular, going to struggle maneuvering around that one. And it's not just Chalk who's going to be dropping massive slows on the field. It's also Dude Man Bro. So I think Sleekness in the 5-on-5 engagement actually has a decent shot, and they're keeping the fight up. Like every single time there is an engagement, it's a trade, but they're not keeping the farm up, man. I haven't looked at the gold until literally just now. The Olympus Bolts are pulling ahead.
2,000 pushing 3,000 at any given moment. They're definitely feeling the advantage. Nehu stunned out. Once again, Jake doesn't do a whole lot of damage right now, but that's not what his purpose is built for. Unfortunately, he takes a whole lot of damage right now. Circle of Protection dropped, and he's going to give himself a heal, but it's not going to be a lot to work with. Jake goes down in the mid lane. Haddix is rotated in, and they immediately jump onto Oath. Boulder deep, and the damage tick finally hits, and Oath does go down, making it a 1-for-1.
Dude Man Bro was on the rotation in. Hannah Lippin's Pulse decided to stick around in that fight. They would have to contend with some Sanctified Fields, but they do not. Instead, 1-for-1 trade, support for jungler, and Oath being as fed as he was, that bounty, pretty massive for Lasbra. That's a nice trade for the Olympus Bolts. Jake is the wildest E-set support player I've ever seen. He holds on to his ultimate that entire time. He doesn't get a full charge of it. It heals you. It gives you damage mitigation. My man has beads still, and he says, look, these guys, they just won't hit me.
Old brothers!
Yeah, they will not hit me. But not the case. Jake does trade out his life, but in doing so, at least bait Sleekness a little bit forward.
And you know what? That mispositioning on their part gets a kill for the Bolts. So, admittedly, Jake trades his life for one. And it's the jungler who's been doing really well. It was all calculated. You can ask him and potentially a
You're
post-game
literally
interview.
going to have to ask him, probably.
No, they're at home, man. I don't have to ask him
yeah,
anything.
it's the
J-Mac will.
Okay.
I got to talk to we did Jake the other day for the post-game interview.
He's goofy, that guy.
Yeah, I love talking to Jake. It's Jake and Barra always put a smile on my face for two completely different reasons. Jake is goofy. Barra's just happy.
You know, a lot of people have said to me that Barracuda is like the nice guy of the Smite community, right? Like he's the nicest dude there ever was that Smite has created. I don't think so, dude. I've never once seen a player who is just so happy to ruin other players' lives. You think Barracuda is a nice guy when he's cheesing as large as he normally is while doing this to Sleekness? I don't think so.
Well, if you think about it this way.
Okay.
Actually, okay, yeah, nothing's happening over here.
It's
A
the
good
soul
stun.
laners, man.
That's exactly. For some reason, look, I see, I say. That is the Chair 1 motto.
Yep.
Either way, if you think about this, Barracuda right now 4,000 gold up in a game 3 of a best of 5. If they win this one, get to go to Worlds. This is another step closer for him getting a second ring. It's been a long time for him since he's gotten to lift that
You
hand.
have to put so many O's on the long.
Well,
man.
I kind of did. Season 1 was a while ago.
Good lord, has it been that long? Good.
It's,
That's like what?
so that
8
was
years?
2015.
Yeah, like 12 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
Almost 12 years.
Look,
AKA
especially
6.
the last 2 years have actually been about 5. So realistically, it has been 12 years.
Pyromancer pulled out by the Olympus Bolts. Haddix is simply standing between Sleekness and the objective. Goldfury went down a little bit earlier as well, and whoa, it's out of position.
Yeah, he goes up onto the powwow now looking for someone to pull in. Haddix is going to be able to CC immune that. Jake is the call. But I don't know that Jake is who they wanted. Lazarus in the back line immediately onto Nehu, goes for the ult, gets the grab, but does not get the pull thanks to the beads. The CC immunity saves the life, but the damage is still there. Bolts grouping up after the Pyromancer in mid lane. Good knock up, and not a push back. Haddix is not going to be able to find them the way they want, but they got minions. They've got this tier 1 tower. Quig, Nehu, and a lot of Sleekness don't have a leg to stand on for this fight, and Quig is getting pushed back into it whether he wants to be or not.
You'd think the first time Quig would have learned, but he lets it happen 2 more and loses his life. Massive Sanctified Fields, though. He's full health.
What a huge taunt from Lazarus as well.
Double
The damage and a double stun from Jake. Another knock up from Haddix. Yeah, y'all just got to get out of there now. The chase no longer there for the Bolts. They see the jungle, and they're going to strip away whatever they can find.
Every game this set, it's like the Olympus Bolts are like Drake, dude. 10 minutes in, they just flip a switch. Oh, okay, time to start W-keying at objectives. It was the Gold Fury, goes down. Then the Olympus Bolts walk straight to the Pyromancer. They take that one. Sleekness show up after both objectives have already died. Then they die. And then the Olympus Bolts say, well, I mean, we already got a pick. Let's go get a tier 1 tower as well. Nobody from Sleekness could stop him. Haddix lands 3 pulls in a row on Quig. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, can't, shame on you. Third time, also can't, shame on you.
Haddix is surrounded by 2 and is dealing a lot of damage to Oath. That powwow has saved his life slightly. They're going to get the kill onto Haddix, but they're not going to get away from Lazarus. He's going to jump in, throw the ult out, get the poison spread on top of that, and at least find a blue buff for their troubles. Might be able to find Chronic. Good stun from Jake, Vin, Lazarus here. Taunt, good. But Chronic's still going to be able to get the disengage and get on out of there.
We'll see if Nehu might be able to put some work in towards this mid tower. If he's able to strip that one away, that would be a massive win for Sleekness, and with the help of Quig. Should be successful in doing so, but can they escape the wrath of Awesome Jake?
The answer is no. Good silence, good stun, and now a good wind gust, even though it doesn't do too much. Bear is rotated. Honey, good damage there. Stinger set, and another stun from Jake, continually setting them up. Luckily for Quig, there's not enough damage to wipe him out.
Yeah, Jake takes a trade up against Nehu, one that he would likely not win, but Nehu doesn't land too much damage in return. Jake lands everything, but considering the nature of his build, doesn't super matter. This E-set not the hardest hitter on the planet. And now the Olympus Bolts, 15 minutes in, find themselves in a similar position as they did in Game 2. I like to call it the DJ Khaled because they're suffering from success. There's nothing left to do.
I thought you were going to say because they want another one.
Oh, that would have been so much better.
Yeah. They are suffering from success.
You didn't have to say yeah. I mean, you could have. There's some merit to my call.
No, I like what you said.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think they're both good.
Yeah, yours was better, though.
Another one.
Hey, they're going for another tower on the left-hand side. AMC.
Hold on. We got to tighten this up. This is the last cast before Worlds. Hold on.
Yeah, and the Olympus Bolts want to go to Worlds, and that's what they're doing.
That's why they're up 6,000 gold and taking every fight they can find.
It's 6K already.
Yeah,
Wow.
6K, 16 minutes, and what could have been a Tier 2 tower here. It looks like Jake and Bear are going to back off there.
Primal Fury.
Yeah, it's mainly because there's a Primal Fury coming up, and they know that they can get something that's going to be more worth their immediate time.
And what are Sleekness going to do about it? They're going to look at Haddix and admit that every time they fall for it, bro. Haddix just shows up at Sleekness. They start seeing red, and they start walking at or away from him, but never towards the objective itself. Yeah, Primal Fury, that's for the Olympus Bolts. That's an early call, but it's going to them.
Haddix might be the best Matador in the SBL. I mean, he is absolutely, like, it is ridiculous how much attention he is getting. And he's got 4 people around him right now, and they are trying. They're still going after him, Mifflin, but they're not finding anything here. A little bit of damage, and that is 300 maybe health that he's now missing from his health bar. Yeah, he's not worried whatsoever. In fact, he's getting aggressive. He's walking at them, kind of recognizing this position. Pyromancer's about to come back up. That's a fun one. Alongside Fire Giant. We're getting to that 17, 18-minute mark, and with a lead like this, the Bolts could do it, but they're looking for a little bit more. Lasbra forces the ult out of Dude Man Bro, is the way we're going to call that. And he's going to be missing those Sanctified Fields in the future. Jake is getting collapsed on. This might be the best bet. You cannot kill Haddix, but you can at least kill Jake.
Any sec. There it is.
Yeah, there it is. So they are able to pick up one. They're losing their jungle for it, though, right now, as the rest of the Bolts, the damage dealers, are off just doing whatever they want.
Yeah, they took out a Tier 2 tower, while Dude Man Bro, sans Sanctified Field, just had to watch on from a safe distance. Haddix isn't ahead, by the way. He's the same level as this Chalk. They have the exact same build just about, just as far as effective tankiness. But Haddix is playing as if he's like 6 levels up.
Well, now Lasbra goes in onto Nehu. Again, those beads used, but a good taunt forces Nehu to play awkwardly. The damage is there, and Haddix gets the kill. Now Vin, Bera, Lasbra on a tear, looking for it, and the damage is there onto Chronic. An easy kill for Venenu. Now Lasbra wants a little bit more, but it seems like the team's going to pull the reins back in. Pyromancer, Fire Giant on the chopping block, and they're going to go for the big one that they can. Nobody from Sleekness is nearby, so this should be a pretty free objective.
Silver Lining. Dude Man Bro's stealing the purple buff, so he's going to have some like attack speed. And since, you know, the Scorpions have been controlled by the Olympus Bolts, he's going to have some defense shred if he's near people as well. Unfortunately for him, the Olympus Bolts are going to have Fire Giant on all 5 members. Pyromancer passive to get them out of base even quicker. And there's only 2 Tier 2 towers standing between the Olympus Bolts, the veteran SPL team, and the exposed triple birds of Sleekness. I think Sleekness may be able to put up a defense on a Phoenix, but it's going to take every single one of their resources, and I'm not sure who the priority target is for Sleekness to try and focus out. Ven, ideal. Barracuda, ideal. The potential of that really happening, I'd say pretty slim. And it seems like the Olympus Bolts, they're not even going to concern themselves with the towers too awfully so. Instead, it's just Haddix working his way down the center of the map. I feel bad for whoever's going to line up against him. The rest of the Olympus Bolts, they want the Phoenix.
Don't you mean you feel bad for the 4 people that are going to line up against him?
Send your whole team.
Yeah, he's been facing this. Admittedly, some of the times when there's 4 people around him, he dies on occasion.
Yeah, one of the times.
Yeah, hasn't been happening a whole ton this game. This set, though, it's at least happened like twice. So realistically, try to slow him down. Not looking like it's going to be the best prospect for Sleekness. They're setting up around the left side Phoenix.
Nehu dropped low before the fight. The Olympus Bolts, it's Haddix in first. Lasbra finds out.
Yeah, and that's a good pick up to at least to get the ult out there. No poison spread the damage is going to exist. Powwow, and that's
Great
going to
ult.
immediately chain 3. That is a good pull onto Haddix and Jake. That actually might be what the Bolts wanted. That is an engage for them. Haddix taking a lot of damage. Phoenix is on him, but he's going to be able to disengage and walk out of here. And the damage is just nuts from Venenu, from Lasbra, and from Bara. They're looking to make it to Worlds, and they're looking to do it right now. They wipe 4, and let's go ahead and make it a clean 5 deicide, along with the Phoenix, along with the Titan, along with the set. And now they get to move forward.
Gore, I had Sleekness syndrome. All my eyes were on Haddix that entire time. I was like, surely he falls down. Simply not the case, and in doing so, I missed every single individual member of Sleekness falling down. The Olympus Bolts do it in style, 3-0.
It's about as clean as you could get for him as well. If you're looking to go to Worlds, that's the performance you want to end it on. No one's going to get enough out of that set to study between now and Worlds. They're going back to you versus the Dragons to see what they can try and get some of the homework on. Maybe some drafts.
Yeah, do we think that's exactly what the Bolts are going to run at Worlds, though?
No, not at all.
I don't either, man. That is, congratulations. Yeah, you're going to Worlds, Bolts.
You're going to Worlds, baby! Come on!
You're the one, I'm the two!
Yeah, they're excited. They're going to Worlds. Of course, I'm sure they're very happy about it. Sleekness, unfortunately, their path ends here, but they had a great set yesterday up against the Valks. I absolutely recommend you watch that one. But right now, we have our 6 teams that have qualified. That's going to do it for myself and Mifflin for a few more weeks. We'll see you at Worlds, but the desk, they're going to break it down right after this.
Channels Divinity. Guess who's here? It's Lasbra. Lasbra, he's here. He's got Blink. No, Vote doesn't have any bead. Jump in, double stun. That's perfect for the Olympus Bolts. And it is going to be another 2 kills.
Hey there, Smite fans, Aggro here. Can you believe it? It's already almost time for the Smite World Championships, just a few short weeks away from crowning the champion of Season 8. We've already sent some teams to the Smite World Championships. The Atlantis Leviathans and Jade Dragons have qualified their way there through the placement round, and they'll be playing in the quarterfinals. Awaiting them, and whoever they play, which we will determine later on this week, are the Camelot Kings and the Tartarus Titans, the two teams who are at the top end of the Phase 3 playoffs. Assuming you're a fan of the Tartarus Titans or the Camelot Kings, since they're waiting in the semifinals, they are just 6 wins away from lifting Thor's hammer and being crowned the Season 8 Smite World Champions. So make sure you're marking your calendars. January 7th, 8th, and 9th are when all those games are happening. But of course, we got hi-rez Presents on the 5th, Throwback Thursday on the 6th. So make sure you're tuning in starting January 5th here at twitch.tv/SmiteGame for what's sure to be an amazing Smite World Championship. We'll see you then.
The Olympus Bolts did it. It only took them 3 games here in this best of 5, but they've done what they need to do in order to qualify to the Smite World Championships happening in January. And thanks to our good friends over at Inside Apparel, you can pick up some of the hottest jerseys on the market with our brand new Championship Edition jerseys for all of our teams out here. Make sure to go to hrz.io/SWC merch in all caps and pick up your SWC Edition jersey, joggers, or mousepad, or all 3, if you so wish to do so. Thank you to Inside Apparel for being able to get these Championship Edition jerseys, joggers, and the mousepad out there for all of our fans at home. And the Olympus Bolts, for some fans out there, for a lot, no doubt in their mind that they were going to make it there. The players got to be happy. They get it with a nice 3-0 here over SLEEKNESS.
Made it look easy. I mean, this game, again, just kind of more of the same. Just more map dominance. Never felt like the Bolts were out of control in this game. And this is the team that we expect to be able to do big things in the Smite World Championship. So, SLEEKNESS had a great run. They played really, really well during this postseason at the SEC playoffs and then earlier on here. They definitely should be very proud of their performance overall. But sometimes you just go up against a team who is looking beyond, and who is ready for the next step, and I think that's the Olympus Bolts.
Yeah, the Bolts just seem to have SLEEKNESS dialed in. They understood exactly what kind of play style they wanted to come in with towards this event. They understood the kind of picks and bans that these guys like to perform on. And then when it came down to the actual battleground, when it came to the actual fighting, the Bolts were able to come up big. Talk about this arena fight that we got to have over in the duo lane. We had almost like 8 people over there at one point early on. And then there was one moment where I'm literally staring at Haddix's character as he's eating like 6 different abilities. He's dancing in the midst of them. And I think this fight right here was that moment to realize that, Haddix isn't dying because he ate like 60% of his health, came back full health, and went right back in.
Yeah, Haddix just was an unstoppable tank in this game. I mean, Venenu was putting out tons of damage. Lasber was in the right spots. That Strife was absolutely nasty from Ven. These are the types of games that are really fun. Whenever you and your boys are all popping off, everyone's doing really well individually, and you get to celebrate a world championship berth on the back end. I mean, these guys, that they're always having fun. They're always trolling around a little bit, and they've earned their spot, no doubt about it.
Nice and calm, some good celebrations from the boys as they get to go to the Smite World Championships in January to face off against the other 5 teams who have now made it there. So with this, we round out our 6 teams for the SWC. Venenu coming in with some big damage out here on this Discordia. Haddix topping the damage charts, topping that mitigated chart. I mean, 33,000 even in such a short game. Impressive numbers coming out from him, to say the least, out of the solo lane. And he really didn't have to do all that much different. He kind of just slammed Hercules for a while.
Played Hercules, ran around, pressed 3, healed. That's all he needed to do in that game. Made it look pretty easy. I mean, like I said, this Bolts team we're expecting big things from them when it comes to the Smite World Championship. This is the type of performance we expected to see, and we got it. You know, even here in Game 3 when it looked like, oh, you know, Oath gets off to a very good start in duo, maybe they can make something happen. At the end of the day, the Bolts just better.
Well, speaking of the Bolts and speaking of some big players here, Haddix in the solo lane of the Bolts here for our post-game interview to kind of talk to him a little bit. Congratulations on your win today up over against Sleekness. Now that your team has qualified to Worlds, what's kind of the general vibe around the group?
I mean, we're just kind of going to chill for a little bit and then get back into practicing really hard for Worlds and give it our best.
Well, I guess then you kind of answer what I had next for you. You know, what's some of the prep work you're going to do? Obviously, you probably get some scrims out there, maybe make a couple of adjustments as you get ready for Worlds.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're going to probably do a lot of double blocking again. You know, I always love that. Probably going to be grinding ranked, and that's just all you can really do.
Yeah, I saw you over there in Game 3. You're having a little bit of fun on the Hercules. I mean, at one point I see you take like 6 abilities and you just stand in the middle of dance, just trying to have some fun, get some fights going over there in solo.
Hey, I mean, you know, they just give me Herc every game. You know, I just stand in front of everyone and, you know, I just heal. You know, it's just how it be.
It's just too easy for Haddix, just too easy for you over there on the Bulls. Congratulations on your win. I'll let you get with the team. That way you can celebrate. Congrats on making it to Worlds.
Thank you.
Some general fun, some scrims to be had, some prep work to go, because they've made it to Worlds, but they've got a lot of big teams they're going to have to go up against if they want to be the ones to take Thor's hammer.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, this World is going to be super competitive. I mean, we've seen how high the level has really become among these top-end teams. You know, no surprise, really, that this Group B turns out the way it does with the Jade Dragons, the Olympus Bolts coming out of it. Those two teams, you know, something catastrophic would have needed to happen in order for these two to not qualify, but still. Ended up getting here, and that's all that matters.
Well, let's take a look at the journey that these two teams, that being the Dragons and the Bolts, what kind of journey they took to get to the SWC. It all started out, at least for the Jade Dragons, they got a win over Sleekness. The Bolts got their win over the Valks. The two teams then butted heads. The Dragons came out on top, so they were able to move on to Worlds right away. Olympus Bolts had to wait a little bit longer, but they do so here today with their 3-0 over Sleekness. So those two teams move on to the SWC. Then we had a whole other bracket. I know it's hard to believe that we had 2 full groups coming out here, but over there in Group A, the Atlantis Leviathans, they made their qualification, only dropped 1 game the entire weekend, that being over to the Solar Scarabs. And then the Solar Scarabs, they got to have their nice little battle. 2 sets up against the Oni Warriors, 1 against the Leviathans, but it's that second set against the Warriors today that ultimately seals the deal for them, and they also move on to Worlds to join the Leviathans.
Yeah, what a crazy year it's been for the Solar Scarabs, and really punctuated with a particularly crazy set in order to get themselves to the Smite World Championships. But it's been really fun to watch that team and all the turmoil that they've gone through. I'm sure to be making it to the Smite World Championship is a very big accomplishment. But I know they're not satisfied with that. They want to win it too.
Yeah, every single one of these teams wants to get on out there. And man, Aggro, it's so wild to say that this is the last post-game segment of 2021. We don't have any more Smite happening for the rest of at least this calendar year, but we got the Smite World Championships happening January 5th through 9th. Make sure that you're tuning in towards then. But until then, on behalf of me, Aggro, the rest of the casters, production, and everyone else behind the scenes, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you at Worlds.
Peach it after this video.
Baby! What is with us, man? And these reverse sweep sets. Yeah, somebody grab the broom, quick.
He'll find the double kill. And that's just clean play from the jump. Look at him jumping through. He knows what he just did.
They have controlled the game at certain stages, but couldn't close it out. And right now, one fight in the FG, and that's all she wrote.
They will get 2 kills, but it feels like a hell of a lot more. It's back to the FG.
Unbelievable call